Pacers are in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Joseph Newgarden goes back-to-back, wins the 108th running of the Indianapolis 500-mile race.
This is the Fan Morning Show with KB, JB, and Jeff.
Is there one more scene to the movie? We will find out in 13 and a half hours. Pacers Thunder Game 6. We do know it will be the final game inside of Gainbridge Fieldhouse this season. And as we sit here on this Thursday morning, gentlemen, we do have certainly the news cycle to keep an eye on throughout today. Good Thursday morning to you. Hopefully everybody power back on and survive the storms from yesterday afternoon and early evening. We'll continue to keep you updated on Tyrese Haliburton. I would guess this kind of bleeds into late afternoon, early evening. Typically the Pacers don't have a morning walkthrough. They kind of push it back on game days to early afternoon, or I should say late afternoon, early evening. So we'll wait that and keep you posted anything on that end. Gentlemen, good morning. Happy game day.
Good morning. I know it was a busy day yesterday for both of us, Kevin, trying to get the latest on Tyrese Haliburton. I believe he's officially listed as questionable on the injury report with the calf strain, and he was candid about wanting to play, everything he has to go through to try to play, and obviously there's some risk involved, I would think, based off of what Rick Carlisle told us yesterday, what Tyrese said himself. There is some risk involved with further damaging his calf if he does play. So it is something he has to weigh. And I'm sure we'll have some audio played later throughout the show to kind of give you all the full context of what I'm saying. But, yeah, round-the-clock treatment for the Pacers' leader.
We'll play some audio. You know, you said Tyrese Haliburton was candid. I do appreciate, he does, I think, kind of offer a peek behind the curtain and, what he's going through physically. And I thought some of his answers were interesting yesterday afternoon. So we'll play that. If anybody missed it in the 7 o'clock hour, maybe one more time, we'll throw the Rick Carlisle clip your way. But like you said, officially listed as questionable coming up tonight for Game 6. A happy 23rd birthday to Benedict Mathurin. Do we believe in the birthday game?
Sure. I'll take 23 points tonight from him.
Well, that's maybe the biggest understatement in the
golden
history
birthday,
of the show.
Right? Wouldn't that be the golden birthday, 23 points on your 23rd birthday?
A golden birthday if you were 19, right, today? Is that right? Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
happy Juneteenth, by the way.
Yes,
yeah,
correct.
shout out to Juneteenth. I will say, though, Benedict had quite the quote yesterday, and I did clip the audio, and Mark will probably play it later, but you talk about a guy who is willing to do anything for the team. Yeah, he said some things yesterday, I think, that got a kick out of me, and I was like, this is the most Benedict Mathurin answer to a question I've ever heard in my life. And he's certainly not lacking any confidence going into a do-or-die Game 6.
Certainly doesn't lack a whole lot of confidence at all. So we'll hit you a lot with Game 6 coming up today. Nothing too much, from a Colts front. They did announce the joint practices that will take place this summer. 2 of them, only one at Grand Park. So we'll give you that information a little bit later in the show if you want to. I don't know. Maybe you'll do it in a celebratory fashion tonight. Maybe you'll do it in a different fashion tonight. The Fever do have a late one, 10 o'clock out west. Just to keep you updated on everything from a voice standpoint, Pat Boylan is still here with the Pacers on sideline duties on these airwaves for Game 6. So you'll have Kelsey Casper, who you see do sidelines for the Fever usually. She'll slide over to the play-by-play chair. So that is Fever and Storm tonight, 10 o'clock out west. I think it's Amazon, maybe simulcast at WTHR. And we did see yesterday, James, those flagrant 2s upgraded, or I should say the flagrants on Marina Mabry upgraded to a flagrant 2, which should have happened in the game, in my opinion. And Sophie Cunningham also upgraded to a flagrant 2. Basically, I think all that means is a fine, right?
Well, she was already given a flagrant 2 because she was ejected, and they just fined her more on top of that.
Got it. So the Cunningham, it was a fine on top of it. Mabry, It was the actual upgraded to the flagrant 2.
Yes, which was, again, just an egregious miss by the official, especially going to the replay to break down what happened. How do you go from a technical foul to, oh, wait, by the way, she should have been ejected from the game, which we all thought was what should have happened. It did not happen. Hindsight is 20/20, but I think that is what Stephanie White was getting at. Like, how can the officials be that bad to the point where you miss that poorly? This isn't a flagrant 1 going to a flagrant 2. This is, oh, by the way, that shove in the back. Yeah, that's not a basketball play. We probably should address that. So We'll see how the officiating crew handles the rest of the season. But again, Stephanie White and even the Connecticut Sun, their players and coaches were saying this is not just an us issue. This is a league-wide issue where the officiating has to improve.
What do you think the environment's going to be like tonight?
Probably tense, a little nervous, but I think it'll be a very loud, raucous environment, especially if you give them a reason to cheer early. Like if OKC starts out, I don't know, 10-4 or something like that, might get a little uneasy, get a little unsure of yourself. But if you start off 10-4, it will be very, very loud.
Yeah, it does seem like one of those games where the start is vital. And, I touched on this a little bit yesterday, something we can get into as the show moves along. But, been adamant all series long, can you get Oklahoma City in the clutch? I'm not sold on them. I think they've kind of yet to prove themselves in the clutch. Obviously, you saw them in Game 4 on your own court do that in, very impressive fashion.
And then did it again in Game 5.
Yeah. I don't know if technically it got to a clutch game just based on.
Just saying, like, they cut it to 2.
But
and it was
sure.
Oh, man.
Yeah. I mean, the final 7 minutes, it was, very one-sided. But I do worry about where the Pacers will be at late in the game if Tyrese Haliburton has limited minutes and if other guys have extended minutes. What does that look like for you? I know it's very easy to say, "Oh, it's Game 6, man. You put it all on the line and you die for every loose ball and who cares about minutes?" Well, I mean, yes, but these guys are also human beings. So, what does Pascal Siakam's normally 34-minute output look like if he's asked to play 44 tonight? Andrew Nembhard, if you're asking him to handle the ball a little bit more, what does the wear and tear look like late in the game? So it probably goes without saying, oh yeah, get off to a great start. Well, yes, of course you could say that every night, but it does feel like tonight there's some extra oomph to that.
Yeah, I mean there has to be, right? Desperation, do or die. You're not playing for tomorrow necessarily. You want to get to tomorrow, but this is not a game or scenario where you can keep anything in the chamber, keep anything in the holster. You have to go down swinging if you do go down. And if you go out winning, you got to be swinging in that scenario too. So I don't expect, this to be the typical Pacers game. I know you want to try to treat it as such, but again, if Coach Carlisle's in a position where he has to make a decision, oh man, Pascal's minutes are kind of up against it, play him. What are you saving it for? And I think the fan base would appreciate that and say, hey, if we do drop this game, at least we didn't drop this game, kind of overthinking ourselves and trying to play for a scenario that just didn't unfold. You play to win today, and then you figure out the rest from there.
Yeah, I think that balance for a coach is so difficult. It's like, how much an elimination game do you factor in dudes are just absolutely gassed? Like, what is it? Is it, well, I think our normal rotation would serve us better than a tired Siakam or Nembhard.
Right.
Like, I think that is because we've seen, I think, so many tired turnovers from the Pacers in this series. And honestly, so much to do with Oklahoma City's pressure. I would assume Tyrese plays. That would be my gut feel. Do you have a feel one way or the other?
That would be my gut feel as well. But then the question leads into, will he be good if he's out there? And that I feel a lot more uncertain about.
How quick do they pull the ripcord if it's not? Like, are they?
Ooh, good question, Mark.
What are those minutes going to
Right. I mean, that's the biggest question.
I shouldn't be a coach because I promise you, within the first 5 minutes, if you're not moving well, you got to come sit down.
How what does it look like? Does it look like OG Anunoby in Game 7 last year?
If it looks like that, you got to come sit down next to me.
Does it look like the second half the other night?
You still got to come sit down next to me. It's got to be more than that, right? For them to even have a chance. I mean,
yeah.
You're a wounded duck out there
right.
if you do that. Oklahoma City will smell blood and destroy you. So,
and I know Rick tried to play the other side of it yesterday, not with us, but at his press conference he mentioned, well, when Ty was on the floor, we did cut it to 2 late in that game. I'll be curious too, to your point, Mark. I assume Oklahoma City has to come out with the same sort of defensive intensity on him. But if all of a sudden they look at him and say, wait a minute, you're a shell of yourself. Let's put Dort on Nembhard. Like, do they do any of that aspect to it? Because there is still like you hear this term, I think, a lot in basketball now. It's kind of grown more and more. The gravity of a player.
Yeah.
When you have to contribute all this defensive attention to a player, it brings so much of the defense towards that guy. Haliburton has that presence. But if, for whatever reason, he looks like By the way, did you see JMV in a boot?
Oh, yeah, I did see that.
Is that from you, James? Did you do
Now-
that on the
Nah,
basketball court?
that was not me. I was
Is
not
that
with
the
him
worst
yesterday.
juju we could? I do not believe in juju. I do not believe in sports karma. Hell, I might have a present here in studio that might never get worn that I could show you a little bit later today. I don't believe in any of that. But boy, seeing JMV in the boot last night, does that give Kevin Pritchard and company any pause this morning?
Just a little, probably. That was kind of sad to see. I was like, man.
He asked if anyone had an MRI machine on Twitter.
I thought he was trolling about Tyrese. And then the
That's
tweets
what I
kept
thought as
coming
well.
in, and I was like, "Oh, like you're legitimately serious about this." So, I feel bad for him. Do not want the same to happen to Tyrese, obviously. And one thing I will say, we've talked a lot about what Tyrese might look like offensively. He's got to guard somebody. So, Calf, if you are compromised, if I'm OKC, I'm saying, oh, we're gonna put him in every single action and make him defend every single player. How do you like SGA one-on-one? Every single possession. We're going to hunt you. And that's what teams haven't been able to do to him because, to Tyrese's credit, I believe he's improved significantly on defense this year. Played passing lanes very well, uses size, been in great position on defense. But all that might go out the window if he can't move the same.
One key that I'll probably harp on a lot here over the next 3 hours, who can Wiggins and Wallace it? If you go back to Game 5, Aaron Wiggins, Case and Wallace, 7 threes off the bench. That is an absolute must. The Pacers find that jolt. Mathurin, Toppin, hell, I don't know. Shepard hits a couple open shots. Somebody has got to have the home arena, we will lift the role player type of night. If you don't get that, it will be champagne in the visiting locker room coming up tonight. Nick chimes in 5 minutes into the show. Pre-game adrenaline is already flowing. Thank you for the free caffeine. He went hashtag free caffeine. I might try to be one of those influencers today. You guys see this?
Don't put your address out there, brother.
Yeah, maybe cover your. Be a little smart here.
You guys are like so worried about me putting my address out there. You really think people are gonna be knocking on my door?
Oh man.
Well, I mean, you are very famous, Kevin.
Yeah.
And very handsome. So
I could be like one of those influencers, like opening up the present on air.
Mhm.
Should we do that later?
Yeah, an unwrapping.
Yeah.
An unboxing, as they call it.
that is what they call it.
Isn't that like a big thing people
Yeah.
do?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we'll attempt that coming
That
up.
Lululemon over there.
Usually it's like
Hour.
kids opening toys. For Kevin, that,
Is
might be a
that
little
Temu?
different
Is that
thing.
Shein? Is that Fashion Nova?
This was delivered from Westchester, Ohio, so I don't think we have the Lulu action over here, but maybe we'll open that up in the 8 o'clock hour. I don't know. Some would say we're cursing things.
Are we getting a fashion show as well, or no?
Well, yeah.
I'm on strutting through.
Probably we got
I
to
need
draw
a tease.
Got to draw the line somewhere. I will say I'm very happy to see your presence in the chair versus Kylan. Kylan, I think, was a little bit turned off.
Oh, that was the last time you wore the shirt, right? The Plot
rightfully
Ricken shirt.
so when I put the Plot Ricken
I
shirt
forgot about
on
that.
for the
I've
first
usually
time.
scheduled my PTO days to coordinate when Kevin and I is going to be most nude, so
Right. Mhm. Yeah.
doesn't apply today. I
You do a
guess.
very effective job planning vacation around
That's funny.
those days. Kevin Bowen, James Boyd, Mark Dykton here. It is Game 6 coming up later today at the District Tap. Will be JMV hobbling in there, unfortunately. Jeff's still a little bit under the weather. It'll be us three coming at you here on this Thursday morning. Thank you for spending it with us. 93.5, 107.5, The Fan.
on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
We are on Tyrese Haliburton watch here on Game 6. Probably no answer coming until late afternoon or early evening. The Pacers will have their, pregame shoot-around, if you will. They always do this. Late afternoon, kind of early evening. It sounds like Tyrese Haliburton will test it out then, and then official word will come after that. Yesterday at practice, James Boyd, we were there. I mean, it was the lightest stationary shooting you could imagine for Tyrese Haliburton, which is of no surprise. Just film work and a shoot-around. We'll play some Haliburton audio upcoming on his status. But again, my thought is he attempts to give it a go. Of course, that doesn't guarantee necessarily anything. Your thoughts on the status for the Pacer star?
It was a very conservative practice, walkthrough. There wasn't much to really see besides him doing what any of us would do in the basement here at the building with the little hoop downstairs where you can just shoot around a little bit and maybe not move as much. This was not Tyrese full-fledged, even just running. It was just him kind of walking around, taking a couple shots, and clearly being very cautious about his calf.
Again, we'll play the Haliburton audio upcoming. For those that missed it, we had Rick Carlisle on our show at 8 o'clock yesterday. Here was the Haliburton update that he shared with us.
He is going to be carefully evaluated over the next 36 hours and will likely be listed as questionable on the injury report and probably will be a game-time decision for Game 6.
He is officially questionable. He mentioned massages, needles, hyperbarics, and then he said H-waves. What the hell is H-waves?
It's I think it's an electronic stimulus thing.
I thought I turned on like the X Games when he said that.
No,
he
I had
sounded
to look
like
it up.
me attacking a hangover when how he was describing this
This
yesterday.
is a drug-free pain relief device.
That sounds like a scam.
Can I do an endorsement for them?
But I'm pretty sure it has something to do with some kind of wavelengths being pumped into your leg or something.
H-wave stimulation is a form of electrical stimulation that uses mild electrical currents to stimulate small muscle fibers, primarily within the lymphatic vessels, to improve circulation and lymphatic drainage. Man, I just read a medical term paper right there.
Well, I was thinking if it was like, DeForest Buckner with the Colts, maybe going to Panama to get stem cells treatment or something.
Seriously, yeah. Can you
Getting your blood spinned.
Yeah.
overnight him to Germany and see if you can get him back in time?
Rick Carlisle said it best.
Everything's on the table.
That's right.
Indeed.
H-waves and everything.
Everything is on the table. Later tonight, it is the Fever playing basketball. I know we were probably focused on the Pacers tonight, but 10 o'clock, just to update you from an airwave standpoint. By the way, that is the Golden State Valkyries tonight. I think I said the Seattle Storm earlier. Thank you to Scotty for clarifying that. The Valkyries, that would be the expansion team. Fever, a heavy favorite in this one. WIBC, that will be the pregame for the Fever tonight at 9:45, since the Pacers game is going to be on the Fan. So pregame starts here, 8 o'clock for the Pacers. Over on our sister station, WIBC, that's 9:45. Nathaniel Finch filling in with Eddie Garrison, obviously, on Pacer duties tonight. That is, again, Fever and Valkyries from Golden State. Major League Baseball, a lot of postponements yesterday, as you'd expect, but the Reds got a game in 6 innings. They did win. Guardians win as well. We're down to 2 in the College World Series. It is, as I quizzed you to yesterday, the Chanticleers, Coastal Carolina, taking on LSU for the College World Series. Can I give a shout-out to Emily, the librarian?
Sure.
Sure.
Not many librarians get shout-outs these days.
Returned Arthur on time.
So, we frequently visit the library at 42nd and College. Great library. Very much enjoy our time there. Yesterday afternoon, after picking up the kids, took them to the library. Next thing you know, skies get dark, and I don't know about you guys. I swear my phone went off 1,000 times about these warnings yesterday. So the library just lights up. I mean, you got about 30, 40 people in there. Just lights up with all these warnings. Next thing you know, Emily's telling us, we got to go to the back room. She's not letting anybody leave. So there we are. Kevin Bowen, Max Bowen, Rosie Bowen in the back room with 30, 40 of our favorite, closest library enthusiasts. And we're back there. And she kept us there for about 20 minutes. Coast is clear. We exited. Great execution by her. She followed the protocols. Wonderful effort. And we got back home safely. So thank you to Emily, the librarian, for that effort yesterday. I hope everyone had a safe yesterday afternoon, early evening. I felt like those storms kind of came on quick. They didn't last very long, but they were pretty quick, and they were pretty potent. But
Yeah.
we were good.
A lot of trees down on the old north side where I live, so that was.
There's still some stoplights out.
Yeah.
Coming into work today. You guys good out in Brownsburg, Mark?
We were good. Yeah, we were going to the girls had dance class, and so I was literally getting in the car, got them on the street, and all of a sudden the sirens are going off. I'm like, do I turn around at this point? And what do I do? I'm like, we're powering through, and we went to the building, and no dance class anyway. So we sat there for 30 minutes. No one else showed up. Like, all right, probably should have stayed home, but oh well.
We read 4 books in the back room during the time we were there. And
Girls played tag in the rec room.
Max took one of the dinosaurs out of the prize boxes, so I hope they don't charge us for that on our library card.
Some kid who's doing a reading challenge is going to want a dinosaur. Now there's not going to be one there.
Yeah.
Ooh, Max Bowen. I mean, all this read about boxing.
Apologies.
I have to box.
Apologies on that. Colts have announced, or the NFL announced all the joint practices. August 5th in Baltimore, August 14th here with the Green Bay Packers.
Packers suck.
James, that is just one day of joint practices at Grand Park. I feel like in years past, they've usually had at least 2.
Yep.
So just fair warning there.
I'm not complaining.
One day. And for those that are looking at summer planning wise, we await a training camp schedule. I would guess that week in general, James, is going to be very quiet at Grand Park. Like the August 4th through 8th week is going to be a very quiet week because the 5th is a Tuesday. You practice in Baltimore. The 7th is your preseason opener in Baltimore.
Yep.
So if you're planning around Grand Park, I would think the Colts would be very light that August 4th through 8th week up there in Westfield.
I will be in Baltimore for this, bringing you all the updates on the quarterback competition.
All right, on the other side, speaking of updates, Tyrese Haliburton, I thought was rather candid yesterday in what he shared about this process and him attempting to play tonight here in Game 6. He did mention if it was the regular season, he probably would not be out there tonight. But he is questionable. We'll share those Haliburton clips on the other side. Kevin Bowen, James Boyd, Mark Dykton on a Game 6 Thursday.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
It'll be a yes, sirs, gold out tonight inside of Gamebridge Fieldhouse. State of Indiana, yes, sirs, on the gold T-shirt with 2025 finals. What we do know will, of course, be the final home game of the season, no matter what happens. The Pacers try to push this to a Game 7. We'll play that Tyrese Haliburton audio here upcoming. I thought one thing, James, we chatted a little bit about late in the show I wanted to bring up, and I think the turnover issues have been pretty consistent for the Pacers throughout this series, but I would say one change from maybe Game 1, 2, and even Game 3 that we've seen here over the last couple of games. We had Cliff Brunt, who covers Oklahoma sports for the AP, on late in the show yesterday, and he said something to the effect of, the Thunder have unlocked Jalen Williams. That is a huge storyline here in the last couple of games. Like, coming into the series, we had this debate. Okay, can Siakam give you an all-NBA effort? Could Haliburton give you an all-NBA effort? Well, right now, the all-NBA effort, obviously SGA, but Jalen Williams has been an absolute stud here in the last couple of games, and I think that has helped push the Thunder really ahead in the series from where they were on very thin ice at the end of Game 4.
Yeah, he's been special, and I believe when we had Rick on yesterday, he compared some of Jalen Williams' downhill scoring to Giannis, and obviously that is great praise from someone who will be a future Hall of Famer in Giannis Antetokounmpo. So I think when you are in the competition with that guy, you're doing something well, and it's the variety in which he's scoring that is probably the scariest part. Now, I still would, like I said yesterday, Kevin, try to force him and SGA to be jump shooters and outside shooters, because when they get downhill, they're so potent, and they're also drawing fouls. But, man, when he's got the three ball working, he's got the mid-range working, he's got that, awkward same foot, same hand layup that he does so well, it's like, all right, well, when he's got all things, clicking, how do you turn that off? I feel like you kind of got to get out in front of it quicker, because once he gets going, like all great scorers, it's hard to stop him.
Let's get to the Haliburton reaction from yesterday. Again, he's officially listed as questionable. It sounds like this is a decision that will lead right up into late afternoon, early evening today. That's when the Pacers plan to test things out, and then they'll make a final decision. They don't have the morning shoot-around. Some teams I know do the morning shoot-around. The Pacers really have not done that. Under Carlisle, I feel like mostly they've kind of bumped it to later in the day, so guys aren't having to drive down to downtown twice in a day. So they will do that a little bit later. Let's go with a little bit of the long-term reaction. I thought it was a great question from Tim Reynolds, AP writer of the NBA, and those types of questions about the long-term impact ramifications that could happen here if Tyrese Haliburton plays tonight.
How smart do you have to be, I guess, in this situation, or are you not even thinking in those terms at this point?
Well, I think it depends on who you ask. You're asking me, so I think I have to be as smart as I want to be. I have to understand the risks, ask the right questions. But I'm a competitor. I want to play. I'm gonna do everything in my power to play, and that's just what it is. But I think the answer to that is depending on who you ask.
Mark, let's play that other one too about the medical staff. Haliburton mentioned yesterday. I get this is a different injury and the magnitude of this game is different, but he has been listed as questionable prior times, and he has played, I would say, a decent amount when he's been listed as questionable. He touched on that yesterday.
I have a lot of trust in our medical staff. I have a lot of trust in our organization to make the right decision. I think, there's been many situations through the course of my career where they've trusted me on my body, and you're here more than anybody. I'm questionable from time to time throughout the course of the season, and they trust me to make the right decision on my body when the power is in my hands. And I'm going to try my best to do that. But you understand, I want to be out there, and that's the plan.
Plan is to be out there. That's how Ty kind of ended things yesterday. James, your grand takeaways from Tyrese Haliburton meeting the media yesterday.
You know what? I believe he ended it. This might have been the last question of his availability, and someone had to ask him, hey, by the way, if this was a regular season game, would you be out there? And he was like, probably not, but it's not the regular season. And I think that encapsulates everything along with the other responses he gave, where this is a guy who, like all competitors, all athletes, they want to play. you dream of this moment. You worked your entire life to be in the finals. And now the question I would love to get a real response from him, which I don't think he will give one until perhaps after the finals, but like, how selfish do you have to be to play in a good way? I mean, you need a certain level of selfishness to be a great athlete, I think, just to train and do the things you do. But how much is too much when it comes to the selfishness? Like, is there someone who can kind of get to you and say, hey, maybe this isn't in your best interest, even though you want this so badly? So my takeaway is that he's kind of vexed, where it's like, I want to play, but I think part of him knows, dang, if I do play, not like the injury risk part, it's the will I be effective part. And I didn't hear a lot of, not saying he wasn't confident, but there is not a lot of conviction perhaps in his ability, because I don't think he knows. He's probably thinking, I haven't gone full speed. I haven't, playing it left, go right, tried to cross anybody over. I've kind of just been doing the treatment and hoping and praying that's enough to keep me right. Because as he said, when he's alluding to all the things he's doing to train and get better and all the treatments, he was basically saying you're doing everything you can leading up to going full throttle, but you don't know because you just haven't gone full throttle.
Yeah, I was trying to think about this yesterday. This is prior to Ty meeting the media, but I thought to myself, when you think about decision makers, James, involved in this, Rick Carlisle, I assume Kevin Pritchard, I assume the medical team, and then whatever, Tyrese and his agent. And, when you think back to Kevin Pritchard and the medical team specifically, unfortunately, they felt Paul George's injury firsthand. They felt Victor Oladipo's injury firsthand. Rick Carlisle even mentioned yesterday there has been a moment or two in his career where he has been a part of a decision-making process where they ended up pulling back on the player.
Mm-hmm.
I was curious if that would factor into anything here. Again, my read on the situation is I think Tyrese will attempt it, but as you've pointed out, I think very well here throughout the first 40 minutes of the show, that decision could happen very quickly in game. Just how good or limited does he look? And honestly, that first stint will probably be when he's at his best. And then after that, when he goes and sits on the bench and it gets a little cold for a few minutes, then what does that second stint look like?
That's the thing. I don't even think they'll have him sitting. He has to be moving right or something. But
you know what I mean when he's out of the game.
But man, I'm like, don't.
Can you just stationary bike it for the whole time? So I think those are all some questions that you would have here. I mentioned this just a little bit yesterday, but I do think I genuinely mean it. When you get to Game 6 of the series, what's left on the menu? I think that's a general question you would have for any series. Do you try to attempt to throw a little bit more zone at them? They have not been a great shooting team here in the postseason. That's fair. They especially have not been a great shooting team in the two games here inside of Gainbridge Fieldhouse. Like, I don't see Wiggins and Wallace doing that on the road, what they did in Game 5, hitting the 7 threes off the bench. I know the Pacers want to play with great pace, and I know there's a great worry about them rebounding the basketball. That would probably be the biggest worry about playing zone. But, if you're trying to save guys some minutes a little bit, and you're trying to eliminate the ease at which Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Jalen Williams have just driven at will right down your throat, I would like to see a little bit of zone tonight.
Yeah, I'm looking right now. They're shooting 38.2% on threes in the NBA Finals, and I think a lot of that probably came from last game because before that
Which is better than they had been the first three series.
Yes.
They hadn't really shot it well in this postseason.
But I agree with you because it also comes down to your individual defenders, and SGA, I think, to give credit to Andrew Nembhard, I know he was rough to end Game 5, but he has done, I believe, about as good a job as you can when it comes to guarding SGA, making things tough on him, and trying to keep him off the foul line. But when you have him and Jalen Williams, I don't know if the Pacers have the individual talent alone to stay in front of both guys. And so that's where the zone comes in. Can't run it every single play. I think zone generally is not a good defense in the NBA because guys can just shoot it so much better than, what you see in March Madness when they're clanking the shots. But does it just get them off kilter enough for you to get enough stops? And to Tyrese's point, which he said throughout the series, getting out and running. Like, they haven't been able to be themselves because they can't get stops. And so does that help you get a couple more stops here and there, and you can get out and run? And as we keep saying throughout the show, do you, even like semi-transition, three-point shots, things like that, does that allow you to get in the rhythm and to have the great equalizer, which is a three-point shot. So we'll see from there. I know you mentioned earlier, Kevin, about some of the guys, can Ben Shepherd make a couple threes, Ben Mathurin, Miles Turner.
Yeah, Obi. Yeah.
I think Miles is a big
especially,
one. Miles is really, he hasn't had a Miles game where you're like, this is the game where, the longest senior Pacers showed up and showed out.
Which, again, if Ty's limited, that, impacts Miles in the pick and roll because,
Absolutely,
when Ty can turn a corner and get downhill, he oftentimes pitches it back to Miles. That could have some limitations. Do you guys know how they chart this stuff? Clemente Almanzar, I see some people in the YouTube chat mention this, covers the Thunder. He tweeted this yesterday. Thunder fans are expected to show up in force in Indiana, accounting for nearly 1 in every 5 fans at Gainbridge Fieldhouse, according to Ticket Marketplace Vivid Seats. So do they just simply take the secondary ticket market people that have bought it, look up your zip code, and they deem if you're a Thunder fan or Pacer fan?
I'm not exactly sure, and honestly, this is why I think
1 in every 5 is a huge number.
Yeah, I mean, that's, 20%? And honestly, when people put these types of things out there, especially if you do want to be a reporter, I'm like, could you do a little bit more in-depth analysis? I mean, I could probably look up something and say, how many Pacers fans would have showed up in OKC, but I just don't understand the full context there. And to me, that's more so like, can I get a reaction from social media? Because there was absolutely no other follow-up tweets today. It was just that, and I'm like, okay. Because to me, what if you go to a different, source? What does Ticketmaster say or whatever? I don't know. I'm not a ticket guy. I don't know what other outlets there are for secondary ticket prices and things like that. But to me, that sounds really high. That sounds really high.
That sounds
especially for
crazy
a town like this one. Like you have said, I think several times this week, Kevin, this isn't Miami. These people love basketball. They packed out Gainbridge Fieldhouse for the Class 4A state final like it was an NBA Finals game. So I can't imagine that many people selling their tickets.
Well, it's also, no offense to Oklahoma City, it's not like New York where Knicks fans are coming in either. So
that's a good point too.
I don't know.
Yeah, and
I have questions about this.
Yeah, I mean, I get that there are some Pacer fans that are whatever, bummed right now, however you want to describe it. I just can't see the full-on sell of the tickets. I don't know.
When you still have a chance. To me, this is not. It is dire, obviously, but this isn't Shaq and Kobe.
It's 3-2. It's not 3-0 or 3-1. I mean, this isn't like Game 4 of the Celtics series last year where you're down 3-0 and it's like, okay.
That's my point, though, because I believe in 2000, the Pacers were down 3-1, forced the Game 6 by winning in Game 5.
Yeah, they actually smoked the Lakers in Game 5.
Yeah, but again, I'm like, they're right there. You're a game away from tying the series and sending it to in winner-take-all Game 7. So, again, I have questions.
Does anyone have Game 6 tickets out there that has sold them, and why? Was there reasons why you sold them? If so, call the show. We'd love to hear you.
And the secondary ticket market, Mark, you looked up yesterday. It's not eye-popping.
No, I mean there's still tickets for mid-400s
unless you bought your tickets at face value, I don't think you would be making a ton of money on the secondary ticket market.
No, I wouldn't think so.
If you already bought in the secondary ticket market and are trying to resell for a third time or trying to do that, I don't think I don't know, maybe you're reaching out to Thunder fans and trying to absolutely get every last penny out of them.
Now, if the Pacers are up 3-1 or, at this point 3-2 heading into this Game 6, I assume you would be making money because that's a potential championship clincher right there.
I mean, let's not even flirt with that. I mean, if you were, it'd be the biggest sporting event in the history of our city.
Well, let's hope that's on Sunday. With Game 7.
Could very well be. That would be 8 o'clock on Sunday if there is a Game 7. Again, the line has grown to 6.5. I think that is kind of hovering in the general area of where we've seen Game 3 and 4. So I guess if you look at it from a Vegas standpoint, maybe they do expect Tyrese Haliburton to give it a go today. I would guess, James, and you can probably pinpoint this a little bit. We'll hear from Rick Carlisle at 6:45 tonight. Again, it's an 8:37 tip. I would assume the Pacers will do some sort of on-court testing behind a closed door with Haliburton in the 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock range. And then we'll see if, A, that leaks, B, if Carlisle announces it at 6:45. Because he meets the media, Rick doesn't have to announce it till what? Starting lineups usually come out 20 minutes before tip, 30 minutes before tip, something like that.
And oftentimes, he will not go there. He'll just say, hey, we'll see how he goes. And if it's a true game-time decision, he has usually stuck to that in the past. So, again, we might show up. We might have all the questions. We might want all the answers. But honestly, our biggest answer will be at 8:37 tonight and who's out there and for how long.
I think he will play. If he doesn't play, you would start who? Again, last year in the Eastern Conference Finals, it was Ben Shepherd into the starting lineup. Of course, Benedict Mathurin was out for last year's postseason. It was Shepherd into the starting lineup. Nembhard then obviously took over the ball handling duties.
Yeah, I can go either way with this. Do I want Mathurin more for the scoring punch and perhaps some, defense if he's focused?
If he's focused, gosh, it sounds like me coaching the.
I know, but you know what I mean. Like
it's
the Mathurin, it's the Mathurin experience, to be honest.
I know.
Who would you go with?
Oh gosh, I think I would.
See, we're both like, man, it's hard.
I know.
Ty, play.
I like Mathurin and McConnell together. I think they play well off each other. I like McConnell's ability to drive, and I think Mathurin's a really good cutter.
So are you going Shep?
And so I would probably start Shep. Now the question I think you have to ask yourself.
Or do you go Obi?
Yeah, I mean Obi, you'd be super big. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe do you start Obi? Boy, can you imagine?
What did Rick say?
Turner, Siakam, Obi, and Nesmith with Nembhard. You have one of the bigger starting lineups out there. I think you start Shepherd. I think Shepherd's been pretty poor, honestly, in this finals. Defensively, I think that's the other domino effect you have to ask yourself. It's, okay, if all of a sudden Nembhard is your point guard and he's doing it all. And again, last year in the Celtics series, he was outstanding in those couple games that Haliburton missed. Do you take him off the SGA job? I can't see Rick doing that because it's not like he's really trusted Shepherd or Nesmith a whole lot in that sort of assignment.
Yeah, nah, I can't see that.
Boy, the Thunder said all the right things yesterday. I was listening to their stuff. They said SGA.
They sound like vets.
He did not want to sniff any sort of questions about his legacy because if the Thunder do win it all, it's one of the greatest individual seasons the NBA's ever seen.
And then the conversation becomes for him, are you the greatest Thunder player ever? And we know who played there. 2 MVPs prior to him. Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook. So those are questions that will certainly arise if he's able to pull this off. But credit to him for staying focused and I think part of you still, even when you're away from the media, does have to think about that, right? Because you're a competitor and you care so much. Like, I always wonder what the true mental gymnastics are for high-level athletes because you're right there. And when you do win a championship, it's forever. Your stamp's forever.
Mark, you said we have a caller from someone that has sold their tickets?
Mitch is a season ticket holder, yeah.
Hey, Mitch. How you doing, man?
What's going on, gentlemen? Good morning.
Mitch, you are a season ticket holder that had tickets at face value for tonight and sold. Is that correct?
That is correct. And I will say it was an agonizing decision. My wife and I, we have actually half-season tickets, but it just so happens with the rotation, we had 2 games this series, game 3 and then this game. And debated, saw, we don't have like courtside seats, but we're first row of the upper level, so we have no unobstructed view, perfect, view of the court, and so they're kind of premium for upper level seats, and so just kind of played it by ear, looked at what the prices were, and then I ended up selling them. I think face value, the games are going to be about $300 for each ticket, and I sold the 2 for $2,500. Right after we lost the last game, I went ahead and decided to post. I posted them right after the loss, and when I woke up the next morning, they were already sold. And I was mad I hadn't posted them for a higher price because clearly it went really, really fast. But it was one of those financial decisions where I'm like, I can pay for all of my postseason tickets and a good down payment towards my next season costs. But it was not an easy decision by any stretch, and I still feel a little bit guilty, but I had to make that financial decision and jump on it while I could.
So, Mitch, you went from $600 total, that's what you were paying for the face value, to selling them for $2,500 total. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Oh, boy.
Thank you. Correct.
Thank you for the call, Mitch. Appreciate that. Yeah, $1,900 profit.
I mean,
I didn't get in this business. I didn't get in this business to tell people how to spend their money, but $1,900 is $1,900.
Yeah, I was gonna say when you're living real life, you got real bills and things like that. I can understand it. I mean, you
look
can
at, and I get it. Game 6 of the finals is not a Colts regular season game, but look at how much visiting colors you saw last year in that building, and I guarantee you those tickets that sold to Bears fans or sold to Steelers fans or sold to, was it Bills fans?
Steelers home game, basically.
Lions fans.
It seemed like
over.
every Colts home game last year was a road game. That probably paid for all those people's season tickets.
Yeah, I don't hate it. You know, that's the game. And then to your point, Kevin, as you keep saying or alluding to throughout the week, you win Game 4. Perhaps he's in those seats watching. You know,
you win Game 4. It's the hardest ticket ever.
Yeah.
Coming up tonight. I still am optimistic about tonight. I am a big believer in these closeout games. I think your others, I just think a home atmosphere, and who knows, maybe the home atmosphere should be questioned. I still think it'll be pretty raucous. I think that lifts guys, and I think it keeps the others mainly from the Thunder. Because I'm trying to think, Game 3 and 4, outside of Caruso, I don't think many others stepped up for the Thunder. Non-Shea division, Jalen Williams was really good in Game 4. I didn't think many of their others stepped up in those games outside of Caruso. Like, Isaiah Joe, can you imagine him hitting 4 threes tonight? I just don't see that.
I will say, if they play Isaiah Joe, the Pacers should be very happy about that because every single time he gets out there, he picks up 2 fouls.
Yeah, I think he's actually kind of maybe even fallen out of the rotation.
Yeah, he cannot guard. And, I mean, I feel like TJ McConnell looks at him and says, this guy is food. And he just attacks him every single time. So, but I also wonder, could you – and this is a big, if just depending on how the game is officiated, what type of shots you take, can you get them a little off kilter with their rotations by drawing a couple fouls on Lou Dort, drawing a couple fouls on Alex Caruso, doing something to kind of junk up what they plan to do? Because we know OKC's going to be vicious on defense. They're going to be very physical. They're going to be in your grill. And can you do something to counter that? I think the person who could probably do it the best might be Benedict Mathurin because he's a foul drawer. And to be honest, I don't think he grifts or does the whole foul merchant thing that we see on social media. I feel like Benedict Mathurin usually gets downhill and draws legitimate contact. And can he do that, but in a controlled way? Because as we saw in Game 5, there were a couple of drives where I'm like, Ben, you had no plan. And does he have more of a plan tonight to kind of, be more aggressive, get downhill, and perhaps score and also get them off kilter that way?
Yeah, and can you punch them enough? It would have to be a pretty vicious punch, and these punches would have to be in the second half. Can you punch them enough to where Mark Dagnall starts to think about Sunday night?
Yeah.
Now, that would have to be quite the emphatic punch.
Yeah, for sure.
But can you get them into that sort of situation? I've got a present to open up on air coming up on the other side. We'll see if it gets used here. I know Mark's been waiting for this. We'll do that here coming up 8 o'clock hour. Kevin Bowen, James Boyd, Mark Dighton.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
I don't think there's been a time that I have ever wanted Jeff to re-lead us back into a segment than right now. Could you not play that when Jeff is here? Jeff a little bit under the weather. Hopefully he'll be back tomorrow.
This is the big reveal. What are you talking about?
On the re-entry songs
I don't know if it's
that
a big reveal. It's a reveal.
That is why Mark is paid the big
As
bucks.
I'm looking over the camera, I see Mark dialing up the music video of the.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, that was an
Long
epic
song there.
video. I had to change that channel every time my parents walked in. No, I'm not watching the Cisco video again. Watching Rugrats.
So you're lucky you didn't put like Genuine or something.
From Cisco to Tommy and Rugrats, that'd be quite the 180 there. For those that missed it, Tyrese Haliburton again officially questionable coming up later today. Mark, let's play that everything that Haliburton is attempting to. Again, he sounds like he's attacking a hangover with this calf injury. Obviously, he's doing it at a much more extensive level. He did confirm yesterday it is indeed a strained calf. Haliburton did say that yesterday. He is dealing with a strained calf, and he did mention late in that press conference that if this was the regular season, his availability would probably be on the inactive list tonight. Mark, play that clip. This is what Haliburton's doing from a recovery standpoint.
I mean, I think just around the clock stuff as much as I can. Massage, needles, hyperbaric, H-wave. I mean, just a bunch of different things to try to get it to feel as comfortable as you can going into it. The right tape and stuff, while I am performing. And yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's a bunch of medical professionals who could give you a better answer, but just doing everything that I'm told, trying to do everything I can.
And James, to be clear, from an injury standpoint with Haliburton, after Game 2, we saw him limp off the podium down there in Oklahoma City. That was deemed an ankle issue. Now, he never popped up on the injury report.
No.
For that one. Not to get, injury report technical. But
I have a question about that, though, and I would love for him or someone, and maybe I'll just ask a guy on or off the record one day, what requires you to be on the injury report?
Right, I know.
Because he was very clearly
There's so
hurt.
much gray area. I feel the same way about the NFL.
And he said he was hurt, so I'm like, I don't understand. Is it like the
Miles
time
Turner was clearly sick.
Yes.
Why wasn't he on the injury report?
I don't understand that, but go ahead.
So just to be, kind of update everybody on Haliburton medically right now. Again, that was after Game 2. He was never on the injury report. He came back in Game 3 and played his best game of the series.
Yes.
Now, this is a calf. Again, strained calf, same leg, strained calf. He is now on the injury report, questionable. If you want to go back in the last calendar year, obviously last year at this time, he had the hamstring issue, which caused him to miss the Eastern Conference Finals. Their aggravation over the summer from an Olympic standpoint. For the most part this year, he hasn't missed too many games compared to what he did last year. But the reality is the reality. Pacers are a 500 basketball team without him in the lineup this year. With him in the lineup, they're one of the two best teams in the league.
Yeah, and I think Dustin DePierre from Indy Star kind of asked Haliburton to clarify, and he was like, hey, by the way, was it the ankle the first time? Is it the calf this time? And he said something like, well, that sounds about right. And I'm like, all right, well, he's not going to give further details on that. But honestly, I was shocked that he gave that many details at all, because most players will not even touch that, especially going into the biggest game of their life. But I mean, whether he talks about it or not, we all know it is an issue. And I think it just comes down to, like I said, how much can you trust it? And that's the scary part to me, because we all know, the players will do all the little things, not push it full throttle. But when you're in the game and it's the first quarter and you're trying to get past
Lou Dort's up in the grill.
I mean, your own muscle memory, your habits, your talent will tell you, if I step on the gas here, I can go by him. But if you step on the gas and you're not fully healthy, then what? So I think that's the mind game he's kind of had to go through, is like, can I be effective, or do I just go out there and play, kind of carefree until if and when something happens? And so that's something they have to monitor, and something we will all monitor throughout the game. I mean, there will probably not be a time where I don't have my binoculars out, and I'm so serious for listeners out there. I do have binoculars, and I'll be using the binoculars to look on the bench from wherever they have media seating at the 200s to see what's going on with him and what kind of treatment he's getting, even in between his different stints in the game.
Again, I've got questions about Haliburton in this series at 100%. Now, obviously, I'm going to have questions about him, at 80, 85, whatever label you want to throw on him. All right, we had a caller, Mitch, last segment, who mentioned that he sold his front row balcony tickets, $600 face value total for 2 of them, for $2,500. So he made a $1,900 profit. He said that right after Game 5, right? He put them up right after the Pacers lost Game 5. Mark, you said we have a caller, Chris, who is not taking the same approach because of PTSD?
Yes, Chris is another season ticket holder and said he will not sell.
Chris, could you fill us in on your PTSD when it comes to selling tickets for a marquee sporting event in our city?
Absolutely. I had season tickets back for the Colts during the Super Bowl year and the years prior to that, and I sold my AFC Championship game when the Colts came back from 21 down, and I have kicked myself for 18 or 19 years. It's the experience. I mean, the whole financial thing, that's a personal decision. I'll never dog anybody for selling them because you got to do what you got to do. But personally, I'm season ticket holder for the Pacers. I'm kind of in the same area as Mitch, apparently, because I'm first row in Craig DeVault. My neighbor has sold 2 of his 4 for every game. So I've had to sit next to Knicks fans, Bucks fans, and thankfully it's been cordial. But yeah, I just can't do it again.
But tonight the Thunder fans go over the balcony, is what he's saying.
Well,
go ahead, Chris. I'm sorry. I want to go here, Chris. So I know you said you regretted it. Is it because they won that game, the Colts, or would you feel differently no matter the outcome?
Well, it is. It's all about the experience. My wife and I have gone to these for the last 2 or 3 years as Pacers season ticket holders, and I mean we enjoy the experience. I was at Game 3 of the Cavs, and that was a true gut punch. I mean, you left there, and you're like, man, this sucks. But win or lose tonight, I mean, I want to be there. I want to root them on, and it's just an experience I don't want to miss out. And I have full faith, Tyrese or not, that we're going to pull this out.
Chris, do you remember what you made off those tickets back in 2006, 2007?
Yes. My wife reminded me because I told her we probably just ate it or, don't even remember. And we bought and this is nice. We bought a projection TV back in the day. We had young kids, and so we spent $600 that we made on those tickets towards a projection TV that was probably like $1,200 or $1,300. But you know what I mean?
Look at that. Well,
so it actually went to something good.
Sure.
That we got good use out of. So, like I said, I don't blame anybody for doing what they need to do, but I don't want to look back on this in 2 years or 10 years and think, man, I wish I would have been there.
Totally get it. Chris, enjoy tonight. Thank you for the call, sir.
Thanks.
See, I can respect both perspectives we've gotten on the show so far, but I did get a kick out of we used the money for projection TV, because I was just having this conversation the other day. TVs are like so much cheaper than they used to be. Now, I'm not saying this is a flex because obviously they still cost, but yeah, like you can get a nice TV. It feels like on Amazon or something like that these days. But yeah, shout out to Chris, and maybe depending on the 1 in 5 Thunder fans that'll be there tonight, it won't be as cordial as it's been.
Now, Mark, do you think this is a curse, what I'm about to do?
No.
I don't think so. I think at this point, I mean, we're talking about Tyrese's calf.
Can you imagine if I had that power? By the way, did JMV rip the Achilles last night?
I don't know. He said something popped that shouldn't have popped.
Oh, man. You know what we should ask him?
Are we going to have to Paul Pierce him into the district tap tonight?
Oh, he might. But the question is...
Mateen Cleaves back in the 2000 national title?
I mean, you just have to ask him, hey, did it feel like somebody kicked you? Because every person who tore their Achilles always says, man, I feel like I got kicked in the back, and I turned around, no one was there.
All right, so this is a package that was delivered over the weekend. I haven't opened it up yet.
Woo, that's a big package.
That's quite the compliment.
You guys see that letter there in the bottom corner?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's that letter?
That's an M.
Medium.
Boy, that's got me already sweating.
Mm-hmm.
You guys have seen me.
I thought you got the biggest size they had.
Yeah.
I know, but it was only a size 30. I haven't fit in the 30 waist since I didn't have armpit hair.
Yeah.
This is the Speedo. I have not clearly opened it since it was delivered. I wanted to make sure I got ahead of things.
Has
just
that
in
been
case.
tampered with?
I said to you guys that I wouldn't order it until after 2 wins.
Now
We
raise
go
it up
from-
so if this is an unboxing video, you got to raise it up so the camera can see.
Yeah,
Kevin.
I will. Here we go. You guys see the
There
Speedo,
you go.
free ad here for Speedo here. Medium Speedo. And, I said if the Pacers win it all, I will don a Speedo, and the day of the parade, I will, give a nice jog around the circle in said Speedo. Boy, I love the color. It's a really good-looking color, if I must take it out of the box here. Doesn't this look like a little throwback? Kind of Reggie?
I was going to say, that really does
Yeah.
that Pacers color. That'll give you
94
some credit
jerseys?
there.
Is this great or
You could
what?
be at Carmel or you could be at Gainbridge Fieldhouse.
I could win a gold medal for Carmel's swim team right now, or I could rock this. A couple threads that are pulling off already
Oh,
here. I
man.
expected
Oh, Lord.
better material here from Speedo. Lord knows once I put this on, there'll be nothing that is restricting any of the material on
Is
here.
that bigger than you thought it was going to be, or is that smaller?
See, I do like the drawstring on it.
So that means you're going to be secure.
Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and undo the drawstring here. I don't think I'll try it on in studio. I'm kind of nervous about HR and how that all might unfold, but I think at some point
No
today,
one's here today. The office is closed, I think.
I'm not going to lie. It did take me a little while to say, oh, wow, it is Juneteenth, because I was looking. I'm like, there's no cars out here. There's no cars in here. And honestly, I panicked for a little bit, you all, and I thought for a second that I set my alarm wrong or something, because I was like, is it like 7:30 and not 6:30? Because it was
the sun
weird.
coming up like in the 6 o'clock hour is really throwing
Yeah.
me for a loop lately.
Now,
But-
several
So
people
we're
have
all
said,
friends here, Kevin. You can.
Several people said,
prance
like,
around.
this is a jinx. I'd like to flip it. Right now, we got bad juju for the Pacers. Star players hurt. People are selling their tickets. I'm here to turn things around with the opening of the Speedo here. So
Yeah.
if the Pacers somehow find a way, I think I might deserve some credit for this. This is better than Jeff's jersey, right?
Well, that thing's got bad juju written all over it at this point. That's 2 losses now.
Boy, I'm trying to compare it to the green Speedo, and I feel like this is a definitely smaller Speedo.
Oh, man.
It's just my gut
Might be a little
continues.
cold out there in the morning, so you should be all right.
Just the gut continues to kind of.
I don't know if Mark is
Grow
like
there.
proud or
I don't
like
know
disgusted.
what to think right now.
I will. I think I'll.
I'm
try
worried
it
about
on
him
and-
trying it out and walking in here.
I think I'll try it on the break. The big thing is I just gotta make sure the cleaning ladies moved on from the bathroom here.
Yeah.
We're all friends here.
If we hear
Do
like
what you got to do.
if we hear one of those types of screams, we'll know something has happened.
Non-Siakam division Pacer player you're most confident in a do or die game is who?
Good question.
I assume the answer would have been Siakam.
I'm gonna go TJ McConnell.
How about the size of the podium scrum for TJ McConnell yesterday?
Yes, it was very wide. I'm looking at Mark because I know that was an Ellie De La Cruz reference.
Yep. Uh-huh.
But
Jeff's
no,
not here, but he's in spirit.
There
That's
was
for sure.
a lot of people there for him, and a lot of people there for Andrew Nembhard as well. And you can basically, spin a wheel and ask the same exact questions over and over again. How much does it mean to have this opportunity? What do you mean to the team? Your energy? What is it like playing with Tyrese, playing without Tyrese? All those things are on the table. And, credit to TJ McConnell. He sat there and answered all of them. But now we kind of have to wait and see what is the actual game plan, considering we still don't know what is the status of Tyrese Haliburton.
Well, and go back to game 3. McConnell and Mathurin were just incredible in that game in 2 separate stints. I've said this in reacting to game 3. I think what stood out to me the most about that was McConnell and Mathurin not only did in the second quarter, but then they came back in the fourth quarter when you needed them again to deliver for you, and they did that. Several people in the YouTube chat have mentioned Neesmith. I know you've kind of talked about this, James. You are waiting for kind of the Neesmith game. I don't know if you're referencing like game 1 of the Knicks series, but it does feel like the 18-point Neesmith game. Maybe I've just missed it, but and he's capable of that. He's a guy that can bang home 4 or 5 threes real quick.
He certainly can. He's an elite shooter at this point. This guy was 50, 40, 90 in the regular season. 50% from the field, 40% from 3, 90 from the line. The only reason he wasn't in the exclusive 50, 40, 90 club was because he didn't play enough games. And then even in the playoffs, his shooting has not tapered off that much. He's been a very good shooter. So I think a lot of his rhythm, though, Kevin, comes from the defensive energy. And when he picks up those early fouls, it's hard for him to get in an overall rhythm throughout the game. So can he stay out of foul trouble tonight?
During the break, I'll try on the Speedo.
I'm proud that you grabbed a banana on the way out, KB.
Should I do the selfie in the mirror or no?
Sure.
Yeah, it says size 30 here.
We have Mark Allen in the YouTube chat telling me that I forgot about Mathurin. It's his birthday, so should
That's
we be
who I was
confident?
going to say. I know he's clanked a lot of free throws as of late, but like the way he was talking yesterday,
I know.
that dude oozes confidence.
Him and Rick Carlisle had a long chat when we were out there at practice yesterday.
Rick was telling him I need 40.
Matherin's birthday, I believe, Scott Agnes's birthday. Mark Dykton, if you would like to play a little re-entry for him, that's maybe not the thong song like you did to lead off the 8 o'clock hour.
Well, I'll whip something up then.
I do think in general, why I will, I guess when we give picks on the show, why I do think the Pacers will win tonight is, again, I'm a huge believer in the atmosphere, and I'm a huge believer in, I think that the three-point line variance at home versus the road is a big difference. Like, I know we generally use the old stereotype in sports, home court versus road. Like, we always say that when it comes to, describing really any game. But if you look at the Thunder number, it's pretty drastic how much better they've been at home than on the road this playoff series. Like, they have been exceptional at home. They've been good on the road, but it's like a 15, 20-point difference in home versus road. I know we didn't maybe get it to the magnitude of that in Game 3 and 4. Obviously, Game 4, they outplayed the Pacers in the fourth quarter. But when I think back to those two games, James, I feel like the Pacers outplayed them for 6 of the 8 quarters, 5 of the 8, probably 6 of the 8 quarters.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what also should give some fans some encouragement. I get Tyrese's status, but if you really want to get into it, and I think the Haliburton injury is notable, but James, it is the one, I would argue it maybe is the position on the roster the Pacers have the most depth. Like Nembhard and McConnell as your other ball handling options?
Yeah.
Can you imagine if the Knicks lost Jalen Brunson?
Yeah.
It'd be Miles McBride
think of OKC and SGA.
Right.
They do not have another primary ball handler on their team, really.
They don't. It always fascinates me when SGA goes to the bench. It's like Jalen Williams and Kenrich Williams initiating their offense.
Yeah.
So that, again, I don't want to undermine Tyrese because he obviously is an exceptional talent, but McConnell and Nembhard, it's not like you're falling. It's not like going from Anthony Costanzo to whoever the hell else was the left tackle for the Colts over the years. Much more on this. Scott Agnes, 8:30. We'll talk a little Colts and some Pacers. Nate Atkins wrote a great piece on Jermaine O'Neal for the Indianapolis Star. He'll join us coming up at 9. I'll try on the Speedo here in a few. Mark Dykton, let's hit a check down.
The Morning Checkdown on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Pixar didn't happen, Kevin.
Is that you, or are there other people out there that are saying that?
Oh, I'm just saying. That's usually the rule.
He's speaking for other people.
Mark, let's play that first Haliburton clip. He was pretty candid yesterday after, and again, I'll say practice in quotes here. It was a walkthrough and a film session, did some light stationary shooting when we were out there. But the long-term aspect, it's a question that I asked Rick Carlisle yesterday in a similar way. Tyrese was asked about that yesterday afternoon.
How smart do you have to be, I guess, in this situation? Or are you not even thinking in those terms at this point?
Well, I think it depends on who you ask. I mean, you're asking me, so I think I have to be as smart as I want to be. I have to understand the risks, ask the right questions. But I'm a competitor. I want to play. I'm gonna do everything in my power to play, and that's just what it is. But I mean, I think the answer to that is depending on who you ask.
James, you and I have tried to lay out the timetable for the Haliburton news cycle today. Where I would guess it is kind of late afternoon, early evening. He will do some sort of on-court testing behind closed doors. Again, the Pacers don't really do the morning shoot-around thing that a lot of teams do. They opt for come in a little bit earlier on game days, and we'll do something on the court then. I would assume that is when you'll get – the Pacers will know whether they have him or not, and then we'll see. Rick Carlisle meets the media at 6:45, and we'll see when Shams Charania leaks it out. He seems to be the one that always has the Haliburton news, but that's kind of my general guess at a timetable. You agree, disagree with that?
I do agree with that, and again, just a reminder for those out there, the Pacers aren't really required to say who's starting until about 20, 30 minutes before the game. So we might not find out until about 8 o'clock tonight, because even when Rick Carlisle meets with the media pregame, he can say what he said in the past for certain injuries. Hey, game time decision, and we'll see where we go from there. Now, he'll be able to answer other questions about possible scenarios, but no definitive answer is required by 6:45.
6.5-point underdog, 8:37, Game 6. We know it'll be the final home game of the season. We'll see if the Pacers got another movie scene in them here and what has been, no matter what, it has been a special, special year. Fever back in action tonight. They start a 3-game Western road trip. It is the Valkyries of Golden State. This is the expansion team. Fever are a heavy favorite in this one. James, we did get some Fever news yesterday. Upgrading of a flagrant foul. Marina Mabry, a fine for Sophie Cunningham.
Yep.
I believe that was it, right? From post ramifications
no suspensions
from Tuesday night.
No
we'll
suspensions.
see about, was Sophie Cunningham questionable at all? I saw she turned her ankle late.
Yeah, their injury report's a little bit different. They don't put theirs out until, I want to say, might have been out yesterday, but it's not like the daily or hourly updates like the NBA, but I can check on that during the break.
And if you're watching the game tonight, 10 o'clock, Amazon, I believe WTHR, it'll be Kelsey Casper doing play-by-play duties. You see her on the, she did a great job on the sidelines. Pat Boylan,
she's
of
cool,
course, will be here for Pacer radio duties. 3-game Western road trip for the Fever. We're down to 2 in Omaha. It's LSU and the Chanticleers of Coastal Carolina. That will decide the College World Series. Pretty quiet day baseball-wise yesterday. Pretty much everybody was postponed or had a delay from Midwest standpoint. The Reds did get a game in 6 innings. They beat the Twins. The Guardians got their game in, and they won as well.
Any thoughts on the Lakers?
Yeah, the Buss family celebrating, or celebrating.
Well, they probably are celebrating.
Well, yes,
that
they
price tag.
probably are.
Ooh.
What is that price tag? How many billion?
10 billion.
10?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
What did the Celtics just sell for?
I think it was around 6 or something like that. So that is, I mean, Mark Walter is the guy going after the Lakers and buying them, and I believe he also owns the Dodgers, who are obviously very good at baseball and have won world championships. And so,
is this where LeBron would dabble at all? I mean, hasn't he talked about wanting to own? Not that he obviously not that he would be the primary owner, but will he kind of Brady it? You know, Brady's doing the part ownership with the Raiders.
I think he will, especially being, I believe, the first like active athlete to reach $1 billion in basketball. So it's not like he has to wait a few years to kind of get the capital up. I mean, he can retire tomorrow and probably be able to get in those conversations the next day.
All right, on the other side, Scott Agnes joins us. We'll talk some Pacers, talk some Fever with him. I'm heading to the bathroom. Try on the Speedo.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Cisco at 8, little 50 at 8:31. Mark Dykton not messing around here on this Game 6 game day. It is indeed the 23rd birthday of one Benedict Mathurin. But, Mark, you especially played that for the, I'm going to guess, I don't know if he wants me to reveal his age. Is it the 36th birthday of Scott Agnes? Scott, is that right?
Yeah, that is.
A happy birthday to you, sir. Would you like for us to sing or no?
Happy birthday
No,
to
I'm
you.
good.
Happy
I'm good.
birthday to you. It's like the most non-Scott thing ever. I'm sorry, Scott, but you know I love you.
Scott, happy birthday.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Coming up tonight, Game 6 again, 8:30. Well, Scott, actually, I want to start here. Do we know the referee assignments for tonight? And is Scott Foster on the crew?
Come back to me.
The NBA website says they come out at 9, so we've got a little less than a half hour away from knowing what it
before
is.
the referee assignments? Got it. So we got 30 minutes before that. Okay, let's play out the Haliburton thing. One, do you think he'll play? Let's start there.
I think it's probably a decision, man, he's really wrestling with, because here's some data for you that tells you about the decision. For example, during the regular season, there were 23 calf strains recorded. 22 of those players missed at least one game.
Ooh, look at that stat.
Let's take it further. Average time lost for postseason calf strains in the postseason, 6 days, 1.5 games. So that shows us typically
that's
players
postseason,
would
you
miss
said?
at least a game. The second one is the average time lost for all postseason calf strains is 1.5 games, 6 days.
So 22 of 23 guys missed time with calf strains during the regular season, and in the postseason, a calf strain sidelined you for 6 days. Interesting. Okay, let's play it out under the hypothetical that Haliburton doesn't play. Your starting lineup guess would be what?
Perhaps Mathurin? I don't know. I'm thinking of Mathurin.
So, last year in the Eastern Conference Finals, without Mathurin, without the birthday boy, your fellow birthday boy, without him, they went Ben Shepherd. Obviously, now they have Mathurin available to them, and I would argue the Shepherd minutes, haven't been very effective in this finals.
Yeah, it's been forgettable. You're right. Yeah. If anything, I wonder, if a Jarris Walker was available. I wondered if that might be the move, for example. I doubt it's the obvious one, which is like a TJ McConnell. I think you still keep him with that second unit. But yeah, Shepard's probably the right call. Fortunately, it's been a while that the starting lineup has been mostly together, that we haven't had to think about a different unit for what seems like quite a while.
Scott, we've talked a lot about, if Tyrese plays, what he's going to look like offensively, how he's going to move around, but defensively as well. So if it is possible that he's out there, how do you view the Pacers' approach to maybe hiding him? Because OKC, like any team would, is going to hunt him.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's going to be they'll try to put him in switches and get him in those situations where they're continuing to get him downhill, because also imagine moving backwards on that calf strain. That can't be very friendly to him as well. So it's such a difficult spot, right? Because there's the basketball circumstances, the big basketball and the final circumstances, and then there's the health circumstances. And somehow you gotta if you can pass the medical one, then it's a very difficult decision then moving forward, obviously, for the coaching staff, for Tyrese, and he's got to be comfortable with all of that, because the other thing he's got to be cognizant of is he helping his team by being out there? He might, but at the same time, that second half, it was a little tough to watch, just given the fact that he was so limited offensively. He looked like me playing pickup because all I want to do is get assists, and that's what he was looking like the other night. And so, it's going to be a tough decision nonetheless for him here today.
Scott, you might be the nicest pickup player I've ever heard with that description. All you want to do is get assists. No, I am shooting every single time I'm down the floor. So yeah, we can play together if that's the case. But no, I do want to go pivot a little bit to the defensive side of the ball here. Obviously, the Pacers have had their struggles guarding the two-headed monster in Jalen Williams and SGA. Would you throw a little bit of zone at him? Is that a reasonable request? How much can you throw at him? But just to differ things up a bit, Scott.
Yeah, that's the number one thing probably to watch defensively. And how about SGA the other night? Like that was, to me, that was like a Pascal Siakam 31-point game.
Yeah.
It felt like. I look up and it's like, he had 30? Well, of course he did, but wow. Okay.
I didn't realize he had 10 assists as well. I was like, wow.
He did a little bit of everything. And I think that's the big change is game one. Didn't he put up like 32 shots?
Yeah.
It was all his. Now he's doing a lot. Since game one, he's had a lot more balance. And I think they've found success because of it. Even more success, I should say, with all of that. But, yeah, defensively, I wouldn't expect them to play a significant amount of zone or anything like that. I think, if anything, you would see that like they'll occasionally do, right, coming out of a timeout just to change things up, mix things up. I think as simple as it is, it's just the guys winning their individual point of attack matchups, and then there being strong help side off the ball. And the other thing, to KB's point earlier, who's the officials, that obviously has a great deal to do with it, because I'll be curious, is it a officiating crew that lets you play on a lot, or is it a group that likes to have a handle of the game and call things quickly, not allow for things to get out of control or anything like that? Because just based off that will directly impact things, right? Because Neesmith fouled out 2 straight games. Last night last game had 5. That's something else I'll watch defensively, because they need him out on the floor for almost all the game.
Scott Agnes, Fieldhouse Files, where you can find his work. I don't know, maybe I feel like an idiot for asking you this sort of question, but it did happen earlier in the week, and we are, I guess, 6 days away from the NBA draft. Could you explain for our audience out there the rationale behind the Pacers trading their first-round pick next week for their own first-round pick in 2026, which they had traded in the Pascal Siakam trade? I believe the Pelicans were in control of that pick.
Yeah, I think in the simplistic form, it's saying, hey, look, you have a championship team right now. You're going to run it back next year, essentially. And where would a first-round pick fit in from a basketball standpoint? They wouldn't, right? Like, Mathurin still doesn't play as much as many would like to see. Jarris Walker, even if he was healthy, would be a fringe guy in the rotation. So what it's also doing is saving you cap space, because there's a certain amount of salary caps penciled in for a first-round pick, right? Because it's a guaranteed contract no matter what. So you remove that liability, which opens up a little bit more money and saves you money and potential luxury tax savings. And for a roster spot and a guy that maybe you aren't quite in love with, right? And so you get your pick back in a couple of years rather than this one. So I think this is a smart pick here. They haven't had many pre-draft workouts, to my knowledge, which suggests maybe they're not fascinated with this class either. But I thought it was a savvy move by this front office, because you're not going to probably draft a guy right there at 23 that can come in and help a team that now has championship goals.
Scott Agnes, Fieldhouse Files, a happy 36th birthday to you, Scott. I hope that gets on the Jumbotron tonight. And Pacer fans selfishly hope that your birthday includes a Game 6 victory. Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
That's Scott Agnes, Payless Liquors Hotline. Ben Shepherd played 6 minutes in Game 5. I wonder, pre-tie injury, it goes against everything that I think Rick Carlisle has really said about Ben, but I wonder if he was kind of playing his way out of the rotation.
He might have been, and I'm looking right now, he was a -6 in 6 minutes. And he, honestly, this is like.
Well, if he got 6 minutes, did he even play in the second half? I'm trying to think when those 6 minutes would have been.
Let's see. I can check for you right now.
Mark, you said 9 o'clock for our officiating announcements?
9 a.m. That's what the official website says.
And so people would be curious if the extender Scott Foster will be on that list. I would venture to guess that's not how they describe me taking the picture in the bathroom.
Maybe
No.
not. So Ben Shepherd played 4 minutes in the first half. Last game, 2 minutes in the second half.
I've got a song choice to describe how I felt like the Speedo fit on me. Maybe we can play that on the other side. If that's not the greatest tease, then I
Sure.
don't know what is.
Sounds good.
We've never needed Jeff back more in our lives. Hopefully he'll be back tomorrow. Still feeling a little bit under the weather. Kevin Bowe and James Boyd, Mark Dykton previewing a Game 6 on this Thursday morning.
Can I just say I'm really proud of both you guys? Like, the official snack food of the morning show may be the banana.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
We'll sprinkle a little Colts in here. Coming up 9 o'clock hour, I know Nate Atkins has been covering the Pacers. He was actually in OKC for Game 5, wrote a great piece on Jermaine O'Neal for the Star. He'll join us coming up in about 10 minutes.
Sounds like he was stuck in Denver for a long time, too. Did you see that?
Yeah, the lack of directs, I think, impacting some travel here from a final standpoint from OKC to Indy. It will be the Gold Out Tonight, the Yes Sirs shirt with the state of Indiana and the 2025 finals print on it. The Scott Agnes stat right there was kind of interesting to me, of looking up some injury research with calf injuries here this season. For those that missed it, Scott shared with us that there was 23, I guess, diagnosed calf strains throughout the year, and guys missed game action 22 of those 23 times. When they've popped up here in the postseason, the average time missed has been 6 days. Now, James, all of that kind of falls in line with what we heard even from Tyrese Haliburton yesterday, where he was asked pretty directly, hey, if this was a regular season, would you be playing? And he kind of shook his head and was like, yeah, probably not. So if Tyrese does suit it up tonight, he is playing through an injury that guys virtually miss time every single time. And if you in regard of, hey, it's the playoffs, well, even in the playoffs, they miss about a week.
Yeah, it's not something that is a very minor injury. You almost wish he would just have like an ankle sprain or something.
Yeah, tape it up. Yeah,
but that's just not the case. And when it comes to the soft tissue injuries, those are always a little bit trickier anyways, because people recover at different paces. But at the same time, if you're Tyrese, you're probably thinking, man, everything I worked my entire life for is right in front of me, and I have to go out there.
They made a good point on Sportsman, like where they were earlier today, which I don't agree with usually, but they said you can't say, well, play for next year. Like if he's looking for longevity and everything like that, like you can't say, I'll get ready for next year. Like you don't know if you're ever going to get back to this moment. Like didn't Dan Marino think he would get back to a Super Bowl and it never happened? Like this might be your one and only chance to win a championship. So you almost have to go all out and doing everything you can to get ready for this next game and hopefully next 2 games for the rest of your career, because you don't know if you'll ever get back to this.
To be honest.
So if he rips his Achilles tonight, you just shrug your shoulders?
Well, I don't shrug my shoulders, but I also say,
that what you're saying, Mark?
As the athlete, as an athlete, you also can't say like, you know what, I'll get it next time. Like there might not be another next time. This might be the peak of Everest right here.
Yeah, I think you joked about it, Kevin, but seriously, I think the question.
No, I'm sorry if my tone is joking. I mean it in all seriousness.
Yeah, no, I'm saying he has to have that question. Oh, we're asking it. He's got to look in the mirror and say, if I go out here and I overdo it and I rupture my Achilles, can I live with that? Am I okay with that? And I know that is, jumping the gun, and we don't know for sure like what grade the strain is, if it is even attached to the Achilles, but we do know that in the past, we have seen some calf strains. Kevin Durant, probably the most popular of the bunch. Granted, he was older than Tyrese, but can you live with that? And that is the hardest question you have to kind of come to terms with. And it's a question only Tyrese Haliburton can answer because he is the only one at physical risk in the situation.
I think the other thing, too, is just, what is the risk level for, other injuries? Again, ankle sprain, it's like, okay, that's a little different than, calves, to James's point. How much does that impact where you're at from an Achilles standpoint? So we'll continue to monitor it throughout the day. Again, sounds like late afternoon, early evening is when we'll get word on that. Mark, one of you mentioned soft tissue earlier. I did take a selfie in the mirror with the Speedo on a few breaks ago. And, boy, I will say as I started to get the Speedo into one leg and it started to make its way up the leg. I'm trying to paint some vivid imagery here. As it started to make its way up.
It's a family, station.
Right, but I mean, we're radio. We're an audio medium. We're trying to paint, as vivid of imagery as we can here. That's part of our job here. As I got the Speedo into the leg and started to make its way up the leg towards the knee, maybe entering kind of the hamstring.
Close your ears.
Again, up the intact calf so far and all the way up there. Mark, I had one song that was just playing in my head, and as soon as it got to the pelvic area, I thought to myself, oh my gosh, I feel like Papa Roach.
That's a very fitting song, though.
How many radio stations have gone Cisco, 50 Cent, and Papa Roach in an entire hour?
We're blazing a trail.
No
right
one
now.
does it like us.
Unbelievable. Guys, size 30 was not the way to go.
Were you ripping leg hairs off as you were lifting it up?
Gosh,
Your
I mean, I mean, in all seriousness, that thing was hard. I mean, I didn't even attempt to look at the.
What was what?
What did I say?
I don't want to say it.
I didn't even attempt to put on the drawstring or to even like look at. I mean, I was just like,
oh, didn't need it, huh?
No, they might as well not have put that fabric on there. So if the Pacers somehow get this done, there might need to be a 48, 72-hour fast, and that thing is, I mean, I literally was cutting off circulation. Mark is trying to get a winner, but I'm talking about wieners.
All right.
Yeah.
Oh, that was for the Wienermobile race on Carb Day, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
An early ode to Joey Chestnut.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I mean, did it look good? I know that's a weird question.
Yeah.
Well, we have Dustin in the
got it up
YouTube
there.
chat. He's saying you got to break them in. So apparently you might want to
Oh,
say
there you go.
Okay. All right.
9 o'clock hour. Go get
I
changed.
want to say with the
Do they have
green.
shoe horns for Speedos? Or that?
Yeah, I
I
feel like
think that's another term.
I feel like
maybe.
I'm oiling my glove the night before, my first baseball practice of the year here. Yeah,
wrapping it in rubber bands.
With the green Speedo, I think I actually wore it the segment after I put it on. That had a little bit more comfortability to it. This one, I mean, again, Papa Roach, I thought the lyrics fit it perfectly. So we'll see if the Pacers can, muster it up here. 96 minutes of basketball. It is crazy to think the Pacers are one home game away from potentially playing for the NBA title. One game.
Yeah.
One game in your own arena to play for an NBA title. That is...
And if they won tonight, that would make them officially the closest they've ever been to an NBA
correct.
championship.
Yeah. 4-2 was the finals back in 2000.
Wow.
What do you think the minutes look like for Tyrese tonight? Like, how are they going to divvy those up?
I have no idea.
Another thing I'm looking
I
into.
can't see him playing more than like 25.
I mean, Rick
30?
Carlisle is I don't even know if they do this. He's a first ballot Hall of Fame head coach. If they win a title, he'd be one of 4 coaches in NBA history ever to win 2 with separate teams. I would be curious if this is one of Rick's most difficult coaching challenges in his rich history. In-game, star player, Game 6 of the finals. He looked like a shell of himself in Game 5. How long do you play him? How difficult? That, to me, is one of the more difficult things. Because, again, the player is saying play. Who knows? The medical team might be saying don't play him. This might be like a third party like, hey, Rick, you make the decision. I don't know, James. I kind of found it a bit fitting when we walked on the floor yesterday for practice. Who was, Rick talking to? Him and Kevin Pritchard right there at midcourt. It's not that I go to every Pacers practice by any means, but of whatever, the dozen I've been to this year, that's not the first interaction I'm used to seeing when you walk right out there on the floor. So much more on this, a little bit of Colts conversation as well. Trying to get the circulation back in my upper thighs. Nate Atkins from the Star joins us next.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Indeed, it is the final hour on this Thursday morning, and 12 hours from now, Game 6 will very much be underway. 8:30, the tip time, 6.5-point underdog, the Pacers. And if you put the Tyrese Haliburton injury question to the side for just a second, it is quite the moment for this franchise, and that you do have a home game to try and create a Game 7. And obviously, at that point, you would be playing for the first time in your franchise's history one game to decide who is the NBA champion. That's the moment we've talked a lot about today, and James Wood is our next guest. We'll do a little bit of that conversation with them, a little bit of Jermaine O'Neal convo, and a little bit of Colts as well.
Yes, Nate Atkins was in OKC for Game 5, did an awesome piece on Jermaine O'Neal, one of the all-time Pacers greats. Nate, how you doing, my friend?
Doing good. Another game tonight, so we will see if they can continue this thing, if they can pull out of what went on in Game 5, which was obviously not the game that they wanted to have to be in the spot. But here we have a team that's come back all postseason late in fourth quarter, so we'll see if they can do it in the series too.
So to be clear, you are back in Indianapolis, correct? I know you had quite the stay in any state but this one for a while there yesterday or the day before.
Yeah, that was something. 7-hour delays on flights, and finally got back at like midnight the other night. So, and then come back here, and there's a tornado here too. So I guess we brought the bad weather with us.
I feel like there's a thunder joke somewhere.
Yeah, there probably is. But Nate, I'll go here. We've talked a lot about Tyrese's calf. Does he play? Does he not play? If he does play, how compromised will he be? From your perspective, you were there in OKC. You saw him play through the calf injury. He did not play well. So what's your gauge on how effective he can be if he's out there?
Yeah, that's honestly the biggest question to me, because that was pretty ballsy what he did to even play through that Game 5 in OKC, because you could just tell just the vibes are very off from even in pregame when we're watching him get ready, and he's using kind of a contraption on his ankle, and he's not entirely sure what it's even for. It's just they're trying things to get that right since it started to affect him in Game 2, and then it just never settled into that game at all. Obviously, he didn't hit a shot until late in that game, but he just wasn't moving smoothly, wasn't playing with confidence, wasn't finding his shot. Shot was falling short, and then all of a sudden he's sort of pressing it, and he decides at halftime they have a conversation about shutting him down, and he's Tyrese, the ultimate competitor, says no, that's not going to happen. I will be out there, but it just never got to a place where he could play through that. And at that point in time, he's just trying to figure out what is exactly going on, because he knew it was an injury in the same area as the one he was dealing with in Game 2, but also knew that it was something more severe, different. They just weren't entirely sure, and he's just kind of trying to go through it live and just never figured it out. And I think that confusion led to some of the mistrust. With Tyrese, when he is fully healthy, there are conversations at times about, if he goes in and out of his aggressiveness, and he's answered that a lot this postseason, kind of late in those games when they need clutch shots. But it has popped up before. So then you add in this injury, and that really took it to a different level. It reminded me a little bit of times when he's tried to play through the hamstring injury. And so that, I just think that he never kind of could figure that out in that game. So I knowing him, knowing how he fought through that, he's going to do everything to play tonight. The silver lining would be that, if he does, they at least kind of know what they're dealing with. They've had a couple days to figure it out and figure out a plan. Whereas this seemed to all develop in real time. This aggravated injury going from, what was an ankle to the full-on calf strain in Game 5. So they know more what they're dealing with. They're going to have more of a plan to work around that as a team and work around it with him. But it does concern me because just over time, when he's had these lower body injuries, it's really seemed to take a toll on his aggressiveness and on his shot. And I just thought Game 5 really showed us just how, something we already knew, but just how unbelievably critical he is to all of this, where they just don't have a good pivot to him not being a big-time scorer and a big-time facilitator at the same time. The one time they had a stretch in that game where things were looking good is when T.J. McConnell came in and went crazy in the third quarter. But then he was so gassed that they had to take him out and not bring him back to the end of the fourth quarter. It's not sustainable for them to do that for a full game, and it puts way too much pressure of creation and safe play on the rest of the players, and that really just spirals against a team like OKC, who can not only turn you over but kill you when you do turn it over. So if he can play and at least protect the ball a lot better, that certainly helps. Obviously, being at home helps because there were some of those turnovers in that building. It just sort of led to these momentum runs that the Pacers kept having to call timeouts just to try to quiet the building. So they're not dealing with that. But I still think that if we're going to be talking about the Pacers coming back in the series or even making a Game 7, it's going to come through plays from Tyrese Haliburton, and not just him being out there, not just him having a presence, but having a huge impact. So I'm very curious to see how he works through this. Like I said, I think he will find a way to play, or if there's any possibility, he will find a way to play. But that's a lot different, as we saw the other night, from playing effectively. And he just can't go. He obviously can't go a full game without making a shot. But he's got to do a lot more than that if they want to win.
It'll also come without, well, I guess the extender wasn't alive in the Speedo that I just put on a few minutes ago. The extender will not be on the floor tonight, courtesy of Scott Agnes, the officials for Game 6, Zach Zarba, Tony Brothers, David Guthrie. So maybe Scott Foster in the back pocket if there is a Game 7 for this series. Nate Atkins from the Star with us here. Nate, shifting gears, I thought the Jermaine O'Neal piece was excellent. I think he's one of easily the most underappreciated athletes, specifically Pacers, in this city's history. What was maybe the most interesting thing, most enjoyable thing that you learned in doing all the work that I think went in, because that was a very well done feature.
I appreciate that. Really the most interesting thing to me was just kind of the way that whole thing came together. So I've actually been after that for about 15 months, ever since the All-Star game last year when Jermaine O'Neal came back to Indianapolis and he wanted to talk with us. And I thought that was, I grew up watching Jermaine O'Neal, but I wasn't here for any of his career or obviously the way that it ended. And so I just assumed that was kind of a standard thing. Pacers players come back and talk, but I realized in that moment he was coming back for one of the only times he's ever come back, and he had a lot to say. He just kind of went right into the brawl, and he realized in finally coming back that there were just so many unresolved narratives that had kept him away for so long, and that he realized that time alone wasn't going to heal those wounds. He was going to have real conversations, both with himself, with his teammates he played with at the time, and with fans and media now, to kind of get back in the fold. And it's just fascinating to have a player that had such a great career, where he left as the all-time blocks leader in franchise history. He still leads them in all-time All-Star appearances, and yet he doesn't get talked about in a way that goes much beyond the brawl. And just remember him as a good player, but he just isn't out there very much. And that's part of it. Was his choice. And then to find out that, he's raising a son with the exact same name, and all of a sudden he's talking about how he hears about the brawl from people who weren't alive on this planet at the time that it happened, because he passed that name along to his son. And all of a sudden it spawns into this story about 3 generations of the O'Neal family, of a name that got made up, that at the time he's passing along, just happy to have a son and be a father, and then realizing he's also passing along this unintended legacy, and everything's going back to those couple minutes in Detroit in 2004 with the brawl. And it took him and his son, and it took them these years to figure out what to do with that and how to define the name that they now share in the game that Jermaine has gone kind of in and out of loving his entire life. You have a guy who at one point was the youngest player ever to reach the NBA and played with such passion that we watched for many years, that all of a sudden he's just getting through the rest of his career not really enjoying the sport. And then he goes a decade basically barely watching the NBA at all. And then here he is this year, so I'd been after that story for a year plus, and then here they go he still wasn't really in the fold with the Pacers last year at the time. He was just kind of trying to get back into understanding, his spot in the city. And then this finals run happens, and he comes back for the Eastern Conference Finals, and now he's fully back in, and his son is fully back in. His son grew up a Warriors fan, and I think has been to one Pacers game ever. That part was just unbelievable to me to have a Pacers legend who pretty much tried everything he could to forget the team he was on, because he felt like for a while they were trying to do everything to forget him. And then here they are trying to kind of remember each other and bring each other back. And so in a way, while 20 years since LeBron didn't heal the wounds on their own, they had to do a lot of work with it. It did create enough distance for them to finally start doing that. And just a lot had to come together for them to all of a sudden be in this spot where he's back in the Eastern Conference Finals, back on the floor. He was supposed to be back for the NBA Finals. It didn't quite work, but he is fully back on the train of loving the Pacers and loving being here and finally finding peace. And it just took 20 years and conversations and documentaries that he never thought would ever have to happen or could happen, and here they're finally happening.
Yeah, it was quite the piece, Nate. I had a chance to read it when I was at AC's Golf Classic, not golfing because you don't want to see my swing out there on the course. But great job, my friend. Are you going to be in the building tonight for Game 6?
I will be there. So that's I'll be there in the locker room too. So I'm fascinated to see how that environment matches up with what OKC showed in Game 5, because their crowd really turned out, and I think Indy will really turn out tonight because they have to. This is it.
Nate, we'll end with the Colts question. Nate Atkins from the Indianapolis Star with us here alongside Jolie Erickson. Does a great job covering the Colts over at the Star. If I can put the quarterbacks to the side, your biggest storyline exiting the spring was what?
I appreciate you doing a non-quarterback division, because I don't know how long we can go before we get to another position out of that. To me, that it was probably just seeing Tyler Warren out there and imagining the effect of this team actually having a tight end presence like that. You expect a first round pick to be a good player, to come in and obviously look like he's going to command a role, but it was something to watch him out there and going down the field and up the seam and making catches, with verticality and all these things that he's doing that we just have not seen at that position in any kind of developed way, certainly since I got here. I got here at the end of Jack Doyle's run, and he's playing out the string in 2021 and then retires, but mostly getting it done as a blocker at that point in time. And here we have Tyler Warren kind of just playing on a different level as a receiver in practices that are very light, but he's still kind of stood out and felt like a dude. And so as we're thinking through all these quarterback issues and who's going to play and will Anthony be out there and, will they be effective? And it's very easy to get into kind of the ways that how much they have to prove in the ways that could potentially go wrong. You do feel better to know that there's a tight end on this roster who's going to make that a lot easier. And we didn't even really get to see anything with the run game, which that's going to be a big part of it, being able to play in 11 personnel and use him in so many different formations that they're obviously not going to roll out in spring. So that's honestly what intrigued me, is knowing that we really didn't get to see what ultimately is going to be the ultimate effect of Tyler Warren, which is what he's able to do for their personnel sets, what he's able to unlock again in Shane Steichen, who also needs a big bounce back after a great first season. He just really got away from what was working and just got kind of consumed by the quarterback issues last year. And then just knowing that they have this target in the middle of the field who can provide answers on third down, provide answers against zone coverage, kind of any mismatch physically that he's going to get, you feel like he's going to have a chance to really do something there. And they've got to get something more than these top three wide receivers who are great, but pretty much provided every single ounce of production. It was amazing for me I just looked at the stats again while I was there and realized that for as much as we talked about A.D. Mitchell struggling as a rookie, he finished fourth on the team in receptions. And so there's just such a hole right there for a number 4 pass catcher, in addition to just those plays in the middle of the field on third down, that I think Tyler Warren just seems ready-made for. And so quarterback conversation is going to dominate every single moment of training camp and probably many moments of the season, if not all the moments of the season. But here's this player they got in the first round that for so long we talked about being the perfect fit, and then that it usually feels like when you pick in the middle of a round and there's this player everyone thinks you're going to get, it's not going to happen. Finally, it did happen for them. So while there's a lot with their passing game that has not gone according to plan, I think Tyler Ward falling to them at number 14 and coming in and working the way he has and looking the way he has, that at least makes you feel like if these quarterbacks can get on the same page, get healthy, if that can even start to work out, that there is quite a bit of upside in offense that also obviously has Jonathan Taylor and should be a big-time run team. So there is upside here, while there's also obviously concern and confusion over the position that defines everything.
How fatherhood and an NBA Finals run brought Jermaine O'Neal back to the Pacers. It was a great read on the Stars website, or the hard copy, of course. And Nate Atkins wrote a great piece on that. Nate, we will see you in the building tonight. As always, sir, thank you for the time, and congrats on the Guardians winning yesterday.
Well, thank you. I got to have some Cleveland team doing something good here recently. So appreciate you guys having me on, though.
That is the high road I took there after Nate totally kicked me in the what.
See,
when Ohio State.
And that's why he did that, because you showed you got too much heart. Too big of a heart, okay?
Yeah. You don't respect what I just did right there, I know.
No, not at all. I like shallow KB.
I heard that little bit of banter about Notre Dame making the national title game, and you're right. It's not everyone makes it there. Some teams win it when they do get there.
Oh, gosh. Boom. I could feel the knife already in there. I was wondering when he was going to twist it, though. Who was saying "Go Nate" in the background there?
Me.
The hell, Mark?
What? That was a great. Nate had a fantastic comeback, and you were just.
Mark is like a
flabbergasted.
WWE promoter in the back. Like, oh, dang.
What a promo.
He talked about your mama like that.
Get the steel chair, Kevin.
We get McAfee on the mic. Speaking of WWE promos, one more time tonight.
I think you have to at this point, right?
Game 3 and 4, right?
If anybody's going to get the crowd hyped up, it's McAfee.
I will say one thing about this. The extended McConnell minutes, I think there's no player on the team that can instigate a crowd more than him. He plays the crowd brilliantly.
Do you think part of that is like you can see yourself in TJ McConnell? It's like, man, this guy is like, 6'1", 6'2". He's not like a suit. He could walk down the street outside of Indiana and probably not get recognized.
I mean, I think I've told you both this story. His son, his oldest son, does swim lessons with my daughter. And, I mean, he would come to a lot of them, honestly, when they didn't have Pacer games. And, I mean, we're talking about, like, a picture of, a swimming pool and a bunch of parents standing around it. And, like, he was recognized maybe, in probably the 8 times I saw him there, recognized maybe 1 or 2 times. And then we did Thanksgiving. The Pacers do I forget the exact title of it. The Pacers have done this for years. Their Thanksgiving dinner with the homeless, and I was at his station. It was T.J. McConnell to my left, Jalen Smith to my right, me in the middle. Jalen Smith, 6'8", 6'9", whatever. Hell, he's probably taller than that. And, he wears kind of the rec spec looking glasses even when he doesn't play. Obviously, he got recognized a whole lot, and TJ would just introduce himself as TJ from marketing.
He markets the team very well.
He does. He does market the team very well, and I think we'll see how many minutes he is needed for tonight. Obviously, the Tyrese Haliburton situation is one we'll tend to right here. Let's hit a morning check down.
The Morning Checkdown on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
All right, officially questionable. That is the status of Tyrese Haliburton, as we said all morning long. Look for late afternoon, early evening. He will test it on the floor, it sounds like, around that time, and then we'll wait what that official word looks like for him. Scott Agnes shared with us earlier in the 8 o'clock hour, guys dealing with calf strains, they barely play. Very rarely, I should say. They play in the next game, even in the postseason. But there's some optimism here with Haliburton. Here was him yesterday, acknowledging that you do have to ask those big long-term questions.
How smart do you have to be, I guess, in this situation? Or are you not even thinking in those terms at this point?
Well, I think it depends on who you ask. I mean, you're asking me, so I think I have to be as smart as I want to be. I have to understand the risks, ask the right questions. But I'm a competitor. I want to play. I'm gonna do everything in my power to play, and that's just what it is. But I mean, I think the answer to that is dependent on who you ask.
And I think he gives it a go, James, but I'll be honest, when I heard Scott mention that 22 of the 23 times the guy had a calf strain this season, they did not play in a game, and even in the postseason, they've missed 6 straight days. Oh, boy. That had me a little worried.
I would like to know who's the one that did play and how did that turn out? Because if the other guys aren't playing, it's a risky thing to do.
It's a great question.
Mark, maybe dial up Scott again. Or,
Yeah, I'll shoot him a text.
Shoot him a text there. Fever tonight, 10 o'clock out west. It is their 3-game Western road trip. The Valkyries of Golden State. Fever a heavy favorite in this one. Golden State hasn't been like expansion bad. They are an expansion team. But the Fever a heavy favorite in this one. Again, quiet day in Major League Baseball with all the rain we got. Guardians won. Reds also won. Indians are going to make or finish their game that got delayed yesterday. They'll play 2 today, I believe, over in Columbus. College World Series down to LSU and Coastal Carolina. And if I could give a shout out, I don't know this kid at all, but I have, followed his high school career a little bit. Sounds like a hell of an athlete, and that was a hell of a 2 days he just had at Prairie View Golf Course. Will Harvey is your IHSAA state champion from the Westfield Shamrocks. They routed the field up there at Prairie View. Will Harvey, James Boyd, a very good basketball player for the Westfield Shamrocks as well. No surprise that great shooters are great golfers.
No, I feel like the hand-eye coordination is always what separates them, whether it's on the basketball court or on the greens.
Off to West Lafayette for Will Harvey. A hell of a 2 days for him. 8 under, I believe he shot, something like that, over 2 days. So very, very impressive there. Shout out to Josh Bryan and the Westfield Shamrocks.
Could he beat Jeff?
It done. He would be, if Jeff played the back tees at Prairie View. What will Harvey just shoot? I said 8 under, so what's that, 68 on average? He'd beat Jeff by 50. Maybe more. It's been a few years since I've seen Jeff play golf, but yeah. And again, that is a credit to Will Harvey.
I mean, this is a guy who can go out in the U.S. Open and, shoot 90.
Should we be beating on the guy when he's down? He's a little ill.
Oh, no.
This is lost the voice.
This is what I'm saying. This is how this is how you win in life, people. Listen up. You kick folks while they're down. All right? That's how you do it. That's how you stay on top. But no, I think Jeff will be fine. And it is funny, though. We get those texts every morning, and it's like, hey, doing a little better. The voice is gone. And I'm like, well, maybe we can get him like a little.
I mean, it's going through us, man. JMV and now Jeff. And I don't know. Mark,
JMV's is a little more serious, is it not?
I'm sorry.
No.
I'm sorry. I'm not laughing at
I'm
that.
not talking about JMV's basketball injury. I'm talking about JMV last week. Did you hear his voice last week?
Yeah, he was
okay, I'm glad you did clarify that, though, because I was kind of confused for a second. I'm like, dang, is that the same thing?
No. And it sounds like JMV suffered a basketball injury. For those curious, last night he had a picture of him in a boot. We'll see if he's, again, we're going to have to.
By the way, I do want to know, JMV, did you find anybody who has an MRI machine at home? Because if they do, why do they have it? That was an insane question to ask Twitter, but maybe he's in pain, a little delirious.
Well, I mean, Jeff did ask Twitter Nation or Listener Nation if anybody could hand sew a Speedo.
Yeah.
I'm still waiting for that call.
Yeah, the fact that you didn't go to like a local business for that, Kevin, is ridiculous.
We've got some referee assignments for Game 6. We'll update you as well on the CAF status, some more Tyrese Haliburton audio. It is Kevin Bowen, James Boyd, Mark Dykton on a Game 6.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
How about a little ticket giveaway? 4-pack Indy 11 against Vegas coming up on Saturday.
Yeah, you
night.
can't sell them to OKC fans.
No, not at all.
Okay.
Fast fingers, Mark Dykton, 317-239-1070 if you'd like to see the 11 take on Vegas coming up Saturday night here downtown. Go ahead and give us a call. Yeah, we had a couple of callers earlier on two sides of the fence. We had caller Mitch, sold his front row balcony pair, season ticket holder. $600 was the face value. Sold for $2,500.
So $1,900 profit.
So made that amount. He said he did this after game 5, whereas caller Chris called in and said he did that same thing back in the 2006 AFC Championship game, obviously Colts Patriots, and he has said he is not making the same sort of mistake tonight.
Respect.
Granted, it's not, obviously the Patriots got to win 2 games, but nonetheless, this is certainly one of the biggest games Gainbridge Fieldhouse has ever had. What do you think it'll be like in there tonight?
I think it'll be
Tense,
rocking,
nervous?
but I think it's going to be a lot of nerves early, especially if they don't start well. If they start well, it'll get crazy. But if they're down 8-2 to start, you're going to hear some nerves and some disappointment. But I expect the Pacers fans to stay engaged throughout the game. And I expect the Pacers, quite honestly, to stay in this game.
Yeah, I think they will. I think they've I'd be very disappointed if the Pacers lose in significant fashion. I'm not. I think Pacers will win. I said all morning long. I think there's statistical evidence to back this up, but I think Thunder have not been as good on the road, first off. And I think, you saw it in game 3 with McConnell and Mathurin. I just think naturally some of those other guys rise to the occasion inside of a home arena. And I know you were a part of the Benedict Mathurin scrum yesterday, the 23rd birthday for Benedict Mathurin today. And in true Mathurin fashion, he was very Benny-like, was he not?
Yes, he was. I mean, Benedict was one of the most bold and funniest players you'll be around. I think that what he said yesterday was very on brand for Benedict Mathurin. And I think also, that confidence, bravado, borderline, just insane confidence is what makes him himself.
Mark, dial up this audio. This is Benedict Mathurin here from yesterday's media session. James, is there any context you want to set up, I guess, before we play the clip?
So he was asked by our guy at The Athletic, David Aldridge, hey, why is your team so resilient, and what's kind of the mindset going into Game 6?
I think the best thing about us is we've been in those situations. I think that, to me, there's no pressure. I know for the rest of the guys, there's no pressure as well. So if you don't feel that tickle in your belly playing the game tomorrow, then don't show up. That's the most important thing. And I'm not saying I'm going to drop 40, but I'm saying I'm going to make sure that I get the rebound and I dive on the floor and play as hard as I can.
I'm not saying I need to drop 40, but, I'll rebound and dive on the floor and perhaps drop 40 on my birthday. I love that from Benedict Mathurin. That was the most Mathurin answer ever.
I'm kind of laughing at the tickle in the belly part.
Yeah, and then he said it with such a deep and deep voice, straight face. You don't feel a tickle in your belly. You don't want this. And I was like, am I talking to Bane and Batman, or what are we doing here? So he was telling us though, and I actually believe him. He was like, my mindset, nerves don't change at all. And maybe he's just really good at hiding it. But yeah, he doesn't strike me as the type that's gonna be fearful of the moment. He was just saying, and he also continued and said something like, hey, we got a chance to make history. It was something like, go out there, win Game 6, go out there in Game 7, shock the world.
Yeah, I mean, if we can separate, and we've obviously hit the Haliburton thing extensively here, in my opinion, very understandably, all morning long. But if you can put that to the side for just a second, you have a 48-minute game on your home floor to play for an NBA title.
Yep.
And, that does not grow on trees. So amidst all of this, and look, the Thunder have been outstanding at home. The Pacers have looked like a shell of themselves in Oklahoma City, yet it is still a Game 7, and funky, clunky, weird things happen. And who knows, maybe the Thunder are just too damn young. Maybe they don't even get it. Their resolve they showed at the end of Game 4 was quite impressive to me, and maybe that's just how they're wired, and maybe they are one of the greatest NBA teams ever, which if they do win a title, they should be viewed in that light with what they did in the regular season and what they've done here in the playoffs. But I think there's an element of just like make them earn it one more time. Obviously, they would earn, you know what I'm saying? They would obviously earn it if they win in your building tonight, but still, put that Game 7 pressure, make them think about it for 3 days. Hell, let Tyrese Haliburton's calf, rest for a couple of days. That is, I think, what I asked for. I don't think it's going to, necessarily significantly change how I view this season, but I just think this team almost kind of deserves and has put themselves in so many great positions this year. They deserve to be in one more of those coming up Sunday night.
You want to do predictions, or you want to save that for the next segment?
I think Pacers get it done. I do.
Mathurin or Haliburton play?
I think he plays. I think he tries to give it a go. I'm not gung-ho about how effective necessarily he will be, but like I said to you guys, I think Nembhard will have a bounce back. I think McConnell will give you important minutes. And if there is a position on this team where like you are somewhat equipped to handling the loss, it is probably at point guard, even though we didn't really feel it in Game 5. So I'll go Pacers. You guys?
James?
So I originally picked Thunder in 7, but I think if Tyrese Haliburton plays, he's compromised, they're losing tonight. So Thunder in 6.
Hater in the building.
Hey.
Just put a picture of James on the Jumbotron in Gainbridge tonight.
I do want to say when we were around for Game 4, people made their predictions.
James was
I
spot
said
on.
Thunder.
Mm-hmm.
Now I did not expect him to win in that fashion, but it's just very hard for me to see because this is the perspective I look at.
You are not. I don't blame you one bit for picking the Thunder.
And this is the perspective I have. Yes, I know the Pacers are going to be juiced up. They have guys that can rally, but if you're OKC, you got to be thinking there's no way we're losing this game to win a championship. They don't have their best player, and he's not like to the level of him being an All-NBA caliber point guard. They're smelling blood in the water, and if they're killers like they claim to be, if you want to be a champion, you got to be thinking this is our chance to put you in the ground.
Yeah, I think the Pacers come out tonight like the desperate dude on day 3 of the bachelor party. He sprints the first hour or two. His energy level's insane. You're like, oh my gosh, how is he doing this after how late he's been out the last 2 nights? And then he's napping by 2:00. That's my worry for the Pacers tonight is I've said it all series long. Get them in the clutch. Get them in the clutch. Get them in the clutch. Well, tonight, if you're asking Siakam, hey, here's 10 more minutes. If you're saying to Nembhard, hey, here's ball handling and 8 more minutes. If you start to do that, does that now turn the fourth quarter into what I think can be a Pacers advantage into not that advantage? Mark, you are going where?
More heart with head, I think. I'm going to say Pacers get it done. They somehow shut it down. They survive a Jalen Williams 3-point barrage. An SGA going off for another 32 points or something. Maybe Obi Toppin has an Obi Toppin game. And he's throwing it down and the place is going insane. Heart overhead today. Pacers get it done. We're talking Game 7 on tomorrow's show.
Well, I'm heartless. So there you go.
Hey, money's not one of the heart. It's one of the head, honestly, when you think about it from that aspect.
James has probably got the more sound logic, though, out of the 3 of us.
One final time. It is the Fan Morning Show here, Game 6. Kevin Bowen, James Boyd, Mark Dykton, 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
I was talking with some people in the YouTube chat during the break. We saw it finally in Game 5. ESPN showed the intros for each team to those watching, at home. They also showed the Thunder intro video. So, I assume tonight you'll see that for Pacer fans, which I think is a really cool thing to do. Obviously, there's only 18,000 people that can be in the building. So I like that ESPN finally did that. For those that haven't seen the Pacer finals intro video, James, I love the addition of the Miles Turner, Indy.
Yes,
and that I think dates back to Michael Grady, if I'm not mistaken. So Miles did that, of course, after they clinched to go to the NBA Finals. They've added that to the start of the intro video, which I think is really cool. So if those are used to the 8:37 tip and they've kind of grown accustomed to that, you might want to watch, 8:20, 8:25 tonight, because you'll get a little bit of that, I assume.
It's the little things this finals broadcast that has annoyed me. Like, just those little things that they haven't done that it took, like, public pressure and, like, outcry to do. Yeah. It's like, it's such little stuff. Like, the same thing with no, like, NBA Finals logos or patches on the jerseys and on the court and everything like that. It's all these little things the NBA could do to, like, just appease the fans. But instead, they make it so difficult that they have to wait for public outcry. And like, okay, fine, we'll put CGI-generated logos on the court instead of just doing this and that. But the tournament, we've got colored courts and everything like that. No one says boo about decals or slippage there. But when it comes to the NBA Finals, we can't have the Larry O'Brien trophy on there. We can't have a Finals logo there. Can't do that. It's just the little stuff that's been annoying me this whole broadcast.
Yeah, I agree there. One of the remedies, Mark, to your point, I was talking to Vince Goodwill. He put it out there from Yahoo Sports, and he was saying that, and the reason why, they build the in-season tournament courts well in advance because every team has to have one, whereas with the finals courts, they put the sticker down because they don't know who's going to be in the finals, and his basically theory was, well, just build the courts when you got the 4 teams in the conference finals, and hey, if you don't
send the 2 courts to a local organization,
high school or whatever, you're printing money at that point anyways. Right. But that's one thing I feel like the NBA should definitely take a page out of the NFL's playbook, where the NFL makes everything a spectacle. They make everything feel big and important, and you can't live without it. Where you watch some of these finals games early on, you're like, is this game 2 or is this game 2 of the finals? You know what I mean?
Somebody said, could you imagine the NFL not having Super Bowl logos everywhere, like on their field during the Super Bowl?
That's what I'm saying. But you got YouTube TV.
Like, is this a game in November? Like, you wouldn't know that. But for the NBA, it's like, is this a regular season game? There's no signage. There's nothing. It's crazy.
One, I think, massive key for tonight. I thought a huge Thunder advantage in Game 5. Outside of SGA and Jalen Williams looking like all NBA guys, they got 7 combined threes from Aaron Wiggins and Cason Wallace off the bench. That recipe needs to be on the home bench tonight. I don't know how it's going to look. I don't know if it's Obi Toppin hitting 2 or 3. You even brought up Miles Turner. It's weird, James. I almost now view Miles Turner from a shooting standpoint like some of these random bench dudes, because he hasn't shot it so.
That's a fair assessment.
He shot it so poorly. I don't find him reliable right now from a shooting standpoint. So whether it's Toppin, whether it's Turner, whether it's Mathurin, hell, TJ McConnell seemingly has hit an open 3 or 2. Some combination of that. I think the 3-point line, it goes without saying. It was a huge advantage for you in Game 4, and you still lost. It needs to be that advantage for you tonight. And for the most part, it has been here throughout the postseason.
I'm ready for the environment tonight. I think Pacers fans are going to come out and make this a game. Even though I picked OKC to win, I do not think it's going to be a blowout. I think it's going to be similar to how the Celtics did, you have to make sure you do your job and bury us, because we're not going to stop, playing hard or diving for loose balls or doing little things to just stay in the game. Because at that point, if you do stay in the game, hell, I'll gladly be wrong about this. You go out there and you steal a game at the end, that's about all you can ask for. I think what your mindset should be, and I'm sure it is for the Pacers, get to the fourth quarter, keep it close, and give yourself a chance. Like, you don't want to be down 10, 2 minutes to go, and it's like, oh, man, like, we don't even have a chance to put pressure on these guys. So I'm very curious to see how they swing to start off, but also if OKC swings, how do you respond to that? Because this is not one of those games, in my opinion, where you can go down 15, 16, 17 points in the first half, I think if you don't have your leader out there to the level he needs to be at, that could snowball pretty quickly and you'll be, out of the game.
Couple items before we wrap things up. First off, Mark, start off the show with this. A happy Juneteenth. I know, honestly, when this day has seemingly become more of a federal holiday here in recent years, I thought to myself, wait a minute, considering it's the ending of slavery, how is this not a holiday prior? One of the most monumental days, frankly, in our country's history. With that, I realize there are some people that, A, have the day off, might just be waking up with us. James, the key inflection points today for Tyrese Haliburton, can you kind of summarize what we've talked about for 3 hours and what to watch for the Pacers star and his availability?
I think it's the around-the-clock treatment. Like we talked about, he's getting, massages, needles. He's doing hyperbaric chambers. He's doing everything in his power to play.
H-waves.
Yeah, which is, something we had to Google and figure out what the heck that was.
JMV might need those after his injury.
He might. And then you mentioned, hey, they'll probably do the closed court workout, test it out, see how he feels. We'll hear from Rick Carlisle pregame at 6:45. He's not required to tell us if Tyrese is going to play by then. We'll find out officially when starting lineups come out. I would assume Tyrese Haliburton starts if he plays tonight. And when that is about 20 minutes for a tip-off. And so that is the timeline of things for Tyrese Haliburton on this Juneteenth and on this Game 6 for the Pacers. So my thing is, you've done all this testing, you've done all this training, but you haven't gone full throttle. And when you do in the game, how will your lower body respond?
Yeah, one thing I would add to that is, yes, that is, I think you laid it out perfectly. What does the next couple of stints look like for him? He might come out of the gate and all this treatment and all that adrenaline, and boom, his first stint, he looks, 95%. Okay, what happens when you sit? What happens when you get a little cold? What happens when, the 15-minute halftime plays out? I think that would be a question that I have on the Haliburton front. But, again, outside of a Shams Charania report, which, given how the Haliburton news cycle is gone, honestly, that might be the way that we get the news. That's how it looks. And, Mark, our officials for tonight, it is not Scott Foster, Zach Zarba, Tony Brothers, and David Luke Guthrie. Is that what I'm seeing here?
Correct. Yep. That's official.
So the extender is in the back pocket for Game 7. And when I put on the Speedo earlier, there was no sign of any extender.
Smasher is probably more appropriate, right?
Yeah, it was. Probably one of those smash burgers, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right,
Press
thank you,
buns.
boys. I know it's been a busy week, and we'll see what tomorrow looks like. Either we are talking about a Game 7, or we are putting, honestly, the final chapter on what has been a special Pacers season. So we'll have you covered all day long. JMV will be over at District Tap doing the 3 to 8 as he recovers from the basketball injury he suffered last night. Everybody, thanks for spending this Thursday with us. If you have the day off, enjoy it. We'll talk to you coming up tomorrow.